welcome to the race.
And the lights are out. Great start then.
The Moto2 champion steps into the team that's dominating the championship.
I'm Scott Mitchell from the race. We're here at Barcelona.
Sebastian Vettel is fighting for his career.
There has to be a title assault, and anything less will be a failure.
Oh, and a spin!
We lost the GoPro.
Well, a championship that many thought would never take place has reached its grand finale. And what a track to have a finale at Fuji Speedway, home of the famous Japanese Grand Prix of 1976, the conclusion of that famous Hunt Lauda battle. And I'm joined here by Leo Gorman. Well, there's already drama at the track. A pall of smoke is hanging over the exit of the final corner. In the warm-up laps, something quite remarkable has just happened. Take a look at this. We were watching it live, just chatting amongst ourselves, and this happened.
This is
live.
Yes, indeed, Sam. It seems Sakaguchi's car coming out of the corner, about to go flat out down the straight, actually just caught fire. The engine bay went up, smokes. And so, yeah, unfortunate situation there for Yuki Sakaguchi, who had qualified 10th today and was looking to continue his run. He actually has won every race in every single season he's competed in Super Formula. It seems except this season, because I would be shocked. I mean, shocked if they can get anything going. I think that his race may be done before it's even started. That was at the end of the warm-up, and it's just happened in the last few moments. As we see this.
Okay, so they're still doing the clear up down at the final corner at the moment, and it may cause a delayed start here at Fuji Speedway. A little bit surprised that the driver had to go and find his own fire extinguisher there, but he knew exactly where it was. Quite a good piece of driver training. With the size of the blaze, we didn't quite catch that footage of the car fully on fire, but that was a big old fire at the rear end of that Dallara SF19, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be one fewer car on the grid for the start of this race. Now, I'm just looking across at updates from the track now, and Super Formula just keeping us posted on what's going on. And that clear up is taking place, but on the exit of that final corner, that is going to be a little bit of a challenge to get the power down, to say the least, if there is oil down there, and there's certainly fire extinguishing all over the track. So it could be a little bit unpredictable. And the track surface really isn't in the condition you want it in, because it's almost Christmas. And overnight, the temperature fell to -4 at Fuji Speedway. There were ice crystals on the track surface when the sun came up this morning. Warm-up, though, has been pretty quick. You can see on your screen the weather at the moment, and the smoke has now dissipated from that final corner, and the clear-up does seem to have come to its conclusion. But have a look at this. This is how we got to where we are. 7 rounds, starting at Twin Ring Motegi. Hirakawa won that, then Shosuboi. Nick Cassidy took victory at the Sportsland Sugo. Autopolis went to Nojiri. Yamamoto took the first JAF Grand Prix victory, and then his debut win. Toshiki Oyu took the big win last time out at Suzuka. Who will be the winner of round 7? In terms of championship points, the situation has changed slightly this morning. After qualifying, Naoki Yamamoto got 1 point. That puts him on top of the point standing with 56 points, including the drop scores. Ryo Hirakawa second on 55, and Tomoki Nojiri 47. Nick Cassidy is still in with a chance of winning this championship on 46 points. But Leigh, things have gone a little bit sideways for the Kiwi, haven't they?
More than a little bit sideways. Unfortunately, during qualifying Q1 for today's race, Nick Cassidy originally set a time that was good enough to get him out of Q1, but was then adjudged by the stewards to have exceeded track limits on his fast lap. That lap got deleted, and it left him with his only other timed lap in a session, which was several seconds off the pace. It leaves him starting last in a race where he really needs to win. Bearing in mind, of course, Nick Cassidy and Nojiri are both in a position where they're going to have to drop points today if they do score. For Yamamoto and Hirakawa, that's less of a concern.
There is some speculation about the engine in the back of Nick Cassidy's car as well. There have been some comments suggesting that Cassidy is using a 2-year-old engine. I put that to Nick before the race, and I mentioned the name of the previous specification of the engine, and he said that wasn't the case. However, it's been widely reported in Japan and in Europe that he is using a 2-year-old engine. The only thing I can get to the end of is that he's using an early test specification of the Toyota Biz 001 engine. And I'm guessing that must mean that a current spec engine wasn't allowed. Nick didn't elaborate other than to say he wasn't using a RI4AG, which is the previous Super GT and Super Formula specification engine. But it's a little bit of a confusion what's in the back of his Dallara SF19 in the Ventolin Team Tom's car. He's going to be starting at the back, but we've seen him charging through the order before. We could see some heroics there from the New Zealander.
This is going to be one of those races that you can't just rely on strategy for this race, Sam. If he's going to be in with a championship, and let's face it, he is 4th in the points, 9 behind Yamamoto. He's already knows he's going to have to drop 4 points if he does score today. The only option really is to win. That's what it comes down to, is to win. For Yamamoto, now 1 point ahead in the championship, starting from 3rd place. He's a little bit better positioned, but you know what? I would actually be quite confident if I'm Tomoki Nojiri. He's scored pole position today. Interestingly enough, because of the drop point system, he doesn't claim those 3 points. Well, maybe not yet anyway. He will also have to drop 4 points, but it puts him in the prime position to win this race. He's already won this year. He did so at Autopolis early in the season from pole position. It's his 4th pole. He's going to be looking for his 4th Super Formula win.
Well, I think we should have a look at what happened last time out, because a few of the storylines we're talking about with Naoki Yamamoto and Nick Cassidy, we could have a look at how they line up. We noticed that Naoki Yamamoto was on 56 points. So, Leigh, I know you were fully tuned into the qualifying session. I was just looking at the timing screens rather than the live pictures. What happened this morning? So talk us through. But before we do that, this is the fire that we were talking about in the warm-up session. And as you can see, that car was absolutely ablaze coming out of the final corner. And there's a man whose face says, I'm not starting this race today. And there is the Team Impul guys just taking a look, and Hoshino-san saying, well, I don't expect that we're going to be out on track. They're still looking over the garage, so I wonder if they're hoping to get the car back and seeing what they can do to get ready for the start of the race. But I say with a fire like that, it's pretty much out of the question.
And the other thing about that, Sam, for Hirakawa, it actually takes one of his potential aides out of the equation, because Hirakawa was only starting 1 row ahead of them, ahead of Sakaguchi. So the opportunity there to possibly use the second team Impul driver is maybe a bit of a roadblock or potential to kind of get in amongst the action for Nojiri and Yamamoto ahead is now out the window. There's going to be a gap on the grid. Hirakawa all alone in the Team Impul situation at the moment. As we see Hirakawa now, this is from earlier on, qualifying earlier on today at Fuji Speedway, and it was Nick Cassidy who went out, set somebody early running, as did Toshiki Oyu, the race winner from last time out. As you see, very cool temperatures, 7 degrees in the air, 10 degrees track temperature, a little bit warmer now, but still very cool. It was Naoki Yamamoto, Cassidy, and Hiroki Ishura, mornings on him, who set the early pace, as well as Oyu then set the best of Q1A of a 1 minute 20.864. Yamamoto crossing the line to set another fast lap, got him P2. Sasahara also showing very, very well today. One of his best qualifyings of the season so far. He initially went top and he was promoted through into Q2. Now, this is where Cassidy went off on his fast lap. He was pinged by the sensors and by the stewards, and his lap was taken off. And then he was sent to the back of the field. Cassidy clearly not happy about that situation. He had set a time that was 4th fastest in Q1A, which would have put him through Q2. Not the case now. He'll be going from 20th. Meanwhile, in Q1B, this is Hirakawa getting away. The driver who started the season so well has maybe faded a little bit in recent rounds, it must be said. But it's Tomoki Nojiri who starred in the second half of the season. Did a very good job. He was actually fastest in the second practice session earlier on this weekend. But one team that were having some troubles were the Kondo Racing team, who were knocked out as Hirakawa came across the finish line there. Sasha Fenestraz also not making it through from Q1A. Kenta Yamashita making it 2 out in Q1. Nojiri coming across the line, setting another fast pace. And it was enough to keep the likes of new driver Hiroki Otsu, Kamui Kobayashi, and Tatiana Calderon out in Q1A. Very good job for the driver, who was really close to actually going out in Q1B. But it was Q2. Very standard session, very clean session today. No accidents, no spins or anything like that, as we see Ukyo Sasahara initially setting some early pace, as did Fukuzumi, as we set some early lap times. There was not much running in the early part of the session. It was as we got to the last few seconds, the times really started to come down. And let's put this into context. The fastest practice session from last year was a mid 1:22. The fastest qualifying in Q2 in 2018 was an early 1:23s. This session alone already setting to the 1:20s. These cars and drivers really taking the guts out of the fast laps in 2020. Hirakawa did more than enough to actually get through into Q3. Some of the drivers setting times, then coming back into the pits before the end of the session, knowing that they were able to get out. But Hirakawa was unable to repeat that pace in Q3. Disappointing session for him. He ended up only P8. Initially set a time of 1:20.7, but went out for a second time lap, couldn't improve. One driver who did improve a couple of times was Naoki Yamamoto, as did Ukyo Sasahara, the Mugen driver who was really sat in for the whole season for Yuri Vips. Sasahara put his best qualifying effort of the season so far. He took 5th place eventually, while Hirakawa initially ran close to the top, as we will see. His 1:20.7, he would not improve on that time, and they would see him fall down the order as the likes of Naoki Yamamoto on screen now set what was initially the fastest time. And then it was Tomoki Nojiri came across the line a few seconds later to go absolute top, a 1:19.972 for Tomoki Nojiri, the fastest lap Super Formula has ever seen at this circuit. Stunning pace from the Japanese driver. It was another fast lap for Sho Suboi to go second on the grid, as Yamamoto didn't actually improve on his final lap around. Hirakawa, as we mentioned, couldn't improve either. He will start 8th. It's a tricky situation for the Toyota drivers. There's only 2 Toyotas in the top 8. The rest all Hondas. Meanwhile, for Tomoki Nojiri, that is a solid 3 points that he won't be able to count just yet. He'll be hoping for a big win later today. And here is the final qualifying results. You have Tomoki Nojiri, then Sho Suboi, Naoki Yamamoto and Matsushita on 3rd and 4th. And Ukyo Sasahara, great qualifying for him, while Norei Fukuzumi will be starting 6th. Then Toshuki Oyu, Ryo Hirakawa, the once championship leader, down in 7th and 8th. And Kazuyo Oshimi, by far his best qualifying of the session. Yuki Sekiguchi qualified 10th. I doubt we'll see him. Then you got Nakajima, Ishura in what is his final Super Formula round. Then Sasha Fenestraz, difficult qualifying session for him. And Kenta Yamashita, poor for the Kondo Racing guys again. Hiroki Otsu, his Super Formula debut. Then you got Charles Malaysia, Kamui Kobayashi struggling once again. Yuji Kunyamoto, Tatiana Calderon starting 19th. Nick Cassidy last.
Well, while you were talking us through that, Leigh O'Gorman, we got news that the start of the race has been delayed. That's due to the warm-up session being restarted. Quite surprisingly, with 5 minutes left on the clock, they decided to carry on with the warm-up session, which, if anything more dramatic happens, we will, of course, keep you up to date. But at the moment, the cars are just going out, finding their way around this rather chilly Fuji Speedway. As you saw, track temperature just up to 10 degrees, rather warmer than we expected it to be, but the sun has been beating down on that asphalt. But I think that gives us a good opportunity to have a little bit of a talk and a discussion about what happened last time out at Suzuka, the grand old lady of Japanese motor racing. And it always does throw up a slightly surprising race. Now, Leigh, you were watching that one with me. It was quite a remarkable weekend, but it's really set us up for this, well, absolute showdown of a weekend, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and it was Cassidy who started on pole that time out with Toshiki Oyu, the debutant, the rookies, starting in second place. Cassidy held Oyu off for the lead in the early parts of the race, but there was action further on down, Sam, as there always is in Super Formula at Suzuka. And initially, the action came in the form of Kamui Kobayashi. We initially thought he's just got a puncture. There's a bit of an issue there, as other drivers were still fighting for position out on track. As you see here, that is one of the Ingen cars fighting with one of Tom cars, and this was the rest of the situation. It was actually Sasha Fenestraz clipped Kamui Kobayashi. Safety car came out, and then Naoki Yamamoto, he pulled into the garage with a car failure, and then he was race leader Nick Cassidy. The back of his car also went kaboom, giving the lead to Toshiki Oyu. Now Cassidy was looking on form to claim one of the top spots in the championship. That went up in smoke, quite literally, on this occasion. It brought out another safety car, during which Cassidy's teammate Kazuki Nakajima suffered a puncture, a right rear puncture. And then with a lot of cars coming into the pits to get their mandatory stop out of the way, except for Sasahara and Matsushita, both of whom stayed out in order to try and make a longer strategy work. It didn't quite work out for either of them in the end. Meanwhile, Toshiki Oyu kind of holding in third place, while Kunimoto couldn't really hold his car on the track. An unusual spin, losing it at the end of the S's and spinning off into the gravel, while the Honda racing machine of Kenta Yamashita made up positions. A very, very good race after difficult qualifying, but it was Toshiki Oyu who held Fukuzumi off towards the end, and Fukuzumi clearly was not happy with this situation late on after the race. It took a while before he really came to congratulate Oyu, but he did eventually, and it was a very, very emotional Toshiki Oyu to claim his first race win in Super Formula. Fukuzumi came across the line to take second place, while Sekiguchi took his first podium of the season in third. Clearly very, very delighted Oyu winning the race there and celebrating afterwards, Sam.
Well, I mean, that was just the second of two absolutely fantastic races at Suzuka Circuit. You can watch both JAF Grand Prix rounds of Super Formula and every other race in the Super Formula Championship this season here on the-race.com. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. You've also got every Super GT race in exclusive and full on this channel. You've got lots of esports action and just a huge archive of wonderful motor racing and motorsport and esports content, all sorts of other stuff. The guys from the-race.com, like Glenn and Ed Straw, talking about all sorts of funny things like Ocellas and Larousses and Ligiers. They will chat away for a long time on their podcast as well. I'm sure we'll be talking more about that, but this is the last live real-world racing action on this channel in 2020. But it's not the last racing action we've got coming up for you on the-race.com. Coming up later today is the Gran Turismo 2020 World Finals Nations Cup final thing, which will be very exciting, well worth watching. And then tomorrow, there's more esports action in the final round of the R-Factor GT Pro Series. And coming up later this week, unless you're like me in a Tier 4 in the UK, Christmas. So Santa will be putting on his fresh set of Yokohama tyres for all those who've been naughty or nice. All sorts of other podcasts coming up as well. We've got the Formula One podcast. They'll be talking about something to do with Mexicans and Austrian energy drinks. Formula E, all the latest things in electric racing with Jack Nichols and the-race.com's Formula E journalist Sam Smith. He's in Tier 3 or even Tier 2. Very lucky fella. MotoGP, everything you need to know from the fascinating world of MotoGP racing with Toby Moody, the-race.com's MotoGP correspondent Simon Patterson, plus special guest Gary Anderson has a podcast all to himself, and he'll probably be talking about the 2021 and 2022 Formula One technical regulations. Bring Back V10s is a series dedicated to older days of Formula One. And when Fernando Alonso turned up in Abu Dhabi with an underweight and tuned up V10 Renault R25, the Bring Back V10s show, of course, spent the entire show talking about V8s and V12s and didn't mention V10s even once. Claire Cottingham has the Hidden Voices podcast. She's also the newsreader on my favourite radio station in the UK. There is finally, of course, an esports podcast. There's all the big talking points in the booming world of motorsport, esports, and I think there's quite a lot going on there, Leigh. Leigh, have you done any esports recently?
No.
Shall we have a look at one of the great race circuits of Japan, a nation full of great race circuits? I think we should have a look around Fuji Speedway with an onboard lap that we'll put together in testing. And you can see now going down this very long start-finish straight with Nire Fukuzumi on a sunny day much earlier in the year into Daiichi, the first corner of the circuit. Cars hitting about 300 kph before they turn in for that. Down the hill here, this is a really good overtaking opportunity before they come into the left-hand corner here at Coca-Cola corner. But that goes straight into the long right-handed 100R corner, then straight up to another overtaking opportunity if you feel brave, the not accurately named hairpin corner as Fukuzumi dives through that. You can see a car in front of him as he comes up into 300R, this combination of right-handed corners right up to the very slow Dunlop corner in front of you. Hard on the brakes, turn in right. You can make a move here, but you tend to get tangled up into the chicane here. Then up to turn 13, which as far as I'm aware doesn't have a name. Hard right, another overtaking opportunity, left into nets or Prius corner, depending on how you want to call it. And then up towards the view of Mount Fuji, which you can see from the cockpit of the car. Then turning hard right. This is a really important corner, Panasonic corner, leading past that famous Bridgestone Bridge and onto that very long start-finish straight. Why is it so long at Fuji Speedway, this start-finish straight? Because this was originally designed to be a NASCAR circuit with a long banked first corner, and they never built the final banked corner, and it just carried on. But the lap times these cars are setting around this circuit are pretty remarkable. That pole position time in qualifying, Leigh, was only slightly slower than the back of the grid in the 2008 Japanese Grand Prix, the Formula One race last held here, and was within a few tenths of a second of Jenson Button's Honda RA108, which had a pretty rubbish qualifying session at that event. And that really shows how quick these Dallara SF19s truly are as the green light comes on for the start of the race. That smoke, of course, is just people doing a few practice starts on the right-hand side of the grid, the pit lane exit. That's all meant to be and allowed. Well, it's quite a circuit here, and it feels strange that this is the first race this season on what is such a famous race circuit in the history of Japan. You can see the drivers standing on your screens. All of these guys are going to be unhappy, bar one of them, and I wonder who it's going to be. It's a Honda dominated event so far, but this is a Toyota home circuit, and that could make a difference. There's car 20. It looks a little bit panicked down in that garage, doesn't it?
They're getting to everything together very late, Sam. And I mean, of course, Team Impol have had a bit of a shake-up in the last half hour or so, but nobody would have thought they would be a little bit more prepared to get Hirakawa out on track prior to this, as we see that is one of the Kondo racing cars stopping to let someone else, or
that's the problem.
Is that an issue? I wonder, has he stalled while actually trying to let someone out onto the circuit? Because there was someone coming out of the garage just as it came to a halt.
No, I think he's pulled over to the right there, Leigh. If you've noticed, he's on the right-hand side of the blue dividing line on the pit lane, the Fuji Speedway, a place I've stood getting soaking wet many times. That's Kenta Yamashita, as you can see. Nice new graphics, and he's the 2019 GT500 Super GT champion. Not this year, though. And you can see the overtaking system light. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the run-up to the race for those who haven't watched Super Formula before. But here is one of the men of the moment. It's Naoki Yamamoto in car 5 for Docomo Team Dandelion. He's the front-running Honda driver in the championship. And right now, the way things are looking, he is the points leader and the favourite to win this series. But, you know, this is Super Formula and anything can happen.
Incredible, Sam. If you think about it, for between Yamamoto and Hirakawa, it is almost a championship of two halves to a degree, because Yamamoto's championship didn't actually start terribly well. He was 13th in the first round of Motegi, then got a 6th at Okayama. It was only at Sugo when things finally got together and he got a podium. But since then, he's had a second win, but had that unfortunate mechanical failure in the second round at Suzuka last time I'm out. Well, on the other hand, you have Hirakawa, and this is something I'm going to now in a moment. Hirakawa, who started the season so well, was actually running away with it to a degree. He took a win, a 4th and a 2nd in the first 3 rounds, and since then has only scored a 7th place, which was the second race in Suzuka. Now, there's a bit of there's a small bit of contention here, because I think there is a little bit of belief from the Team Impulse side that the introduction of the tyre warming system kind of just after the halfway point of the season has kind of destabilized the Hirakawa run to a small degree, because I think that's really where Hirakawa was actually finding a lot of speed earlier on this season, was actually getting great pace while the tires were still quite cool. With the tire warmers that came in at Suzuka last time around, that's kind of, it seems to have hurt him a small bit, as drivers, okay, we're not talking the tire blankets you see in Formula 1 by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, I believe, there's some contention that may have given a little bit of a leg up to some of the other drivers on the grid and maybe brought Hirakawa further into the field.
Yeah, I mean, normally in Super Formula, like Super GT, tyre warmers and tyre warming of any sort is completely banned. You bolt on a set of tyres and they're completely stone cold, and it's up to the driver to get the temperature into them. However, with the series running much later in the year than is normal, right, we don't normally run up right into Christmas time. The circuits are much colder. I mean, we're on the foot of Mount Fuji. There's not much snow on Mount Fuji today, but you know, there has been overnight snowfall. It's super cold at the track, and that's why the teams for the Chaff Grand Prix at Suzuka last time out, and here at Fuji Speedway, the teams have been allowed to have tyre heating cabinets. So it's basically a little square tent in the back of the garage with a jet engine blowing into it to supply it with warm air. It's not a Formula 1 style tyre blanket. And there will be interviews coming in from the drivers. We'll jump onto any of them if they're in English, but at the moment they are all in Japanese, so we'll just keep talking over them.
Sorry, Sam. We got Tomoki Nojiri on screen there, pole position. Now, I mentioned earlier on that technically he would score 3 points for pole position, but doesn't yet. We have mentioned there is the drop scores so far so in this season. It's the 5 best results for the championship. That pole position for Nojiri scores him 3 points, but he's the lowest amount of points he scored in his top 5, as it were, is 4 points. So if Nojiri gets a 9th place, that will improve his actual final championship score. Won't help him in any way, shape or form in the championship. So really, whatever happens, if he wins today, he will only really score a maximum of 19 points from this weekend due to having done so well in races throughout this year. But that still puts him in a fantastic position to win the championship. But Yamamoto, as we mentioned, he's not going to drop any points in this round. Will be giving him a clear run for his money.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the other things you need to look at as well, it may not be something we talk about very much in the commentary, but there is a teams championship at stake, and we'll see that on the podium at the end of the race. It's well worth staying tuned for the podium. Team Mugen, they've got a lot to prove. They want to raise their profile internationally in particular. But one of the interesting things, a lot of people have asked for the point scoring system, is the points are not like Formula 1 points. You get 3 points for pole position, 2 points for second position in qualifying and 1 point for third. And in the race, it's 20 points for a win, 15 points for a second, 11 points for third, then 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, down to 10th position. So it's a slightly different point scoring system. We will be hopefully having live graphics throughout the race of what's going on in terms of that championship permutations. And I think the fella to watch there will be Nick Cassidy.
So, yes, effectively, as it stands at the moment, Yamamoto leads the championship with 56 points. He will not have to drop any points, as it were, from today, because he's only scored in 4 rounds so far. Hirakawa second in the championship with 55 points. Again, same situation. He's actually only scored in 4 rounds so far, so will not really drop any scores if he registers a result today. Tomoki Nojiri, he has scored a 2 7ths, a 10th position. He's already dropped that score. He won in Autopolis and got 4th and 5th already, so he's already dropped 1 point. And he hasn't registered the 3 points he got for pole yet, so he's had an overall score of 51 but dropped 4 of them. Nick Cassidy starting last. Similar situation. He scored 49 overall but has dropped 3 points so far due to his 7th place at Autopolis earlier on this season. So actually, no, sorry, he dropped 3 points for getting pole position at the last round. So he's on 46 at the moment. Cassidy, as we mentioned earlier on, really needs to actually just drive through the field if he's to have any chance of winning this championship. It's going to be a difficult task, but, you know, he is a canny driver, Sam. He is quick, he is canny. And we have to mention as well that this may actually be his final Super Formula round. It's 2 drivers actually potentially having their final Super Formula rounds today. Of course, Hiroki Yoshida has already announced that he's moving on. The 39-year-old driver who is in the Indycar. He'll be starting from 12th today. He is a twice Super Formula champion already. He won the championship in 2015 and 2017. He actually won that series in 2017. That was against Pierre Gasly, and when the final round was cancelled, when there was half a point between them. So he's a twice champion in the series. He's had a best result of 2nd this year. It's been a bit touch and go. He's currently 9th in the championship. He's won previously at Fuji, but it'd be difficult for him to win today. But it'll be sad to see him go. We have no idea yet who may be replacing him. We are pretty certain that we will continue to see Sho Suboi in the other Indycar. But there has been rumours that Sena Sakaguchi may be testing that car in the early next season for when that seat potentially comes available.
Absolutely. One of the questions that's been coming in, and we'll see this played out a lot clearer closer to the race, and it's a question that comes in every single Super Formula round. I figure as we hear from Sho Suboi, this would be a good opportunity to explain it in slightly more detail than we normally have the time to do. Daniel Mello has asked in the chat. Don't forget, we can read the chat as you fire it in live on YouTube. We are watching it, and we will endeavour to answer your questions or talk about what you want us to talk about, including the motor race. What is the green light on top of the car's roll hoops? Well, that is the overtaking system indicator light. Each one of these Super Formula Dallara SF19s is powered by an inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine running on a fuel flow restrictor. There's 2 different engines that are in use. There's one built by Honda, one built by Toyota. They are of different designs. There is an engine war going on. Each team usually brings a single spec of engine to each race. Nick Cassidy seems to be on a different spec of engine to everybody else. We don't know the details. But because they're fuel flow limited engines, it's possible to have an overtaking boost system built in. Every single race, each driver is given 100 seconds of additional fuel flow. So if the limit of the fuel flow is 100 kilograms per hour, which is the standard fuel flow rate in Formula 1, they will be able to press a button for up to 100 seconds, and that will give them an extra boost of fuel flow, an extra amount of fuel going into the combustion chamber, develops a bit more power, and the car will go a bit faster, and it'll help them overtake. Now, because they have 100 seconds and the fuel flow boosts are limited to about 30 seconds in total, I think, when they press the button down, the light will start to flash on the roll hoop. That green light will start to flash really quickly on and off. And that will show you that the overtaking system is being deployed. Then once it's been deployed and the driver's taken his finger off the button, it'll start to flash slowly. When the light's flashing slowly, it means that the overtaking boost system cannot be used. The driver is not able to use that system. And therefore, he's a sitting duck for anybody who's still got the lights flashing quickly. Then once that system is recharged, he's able to press the button again and go and use that overtaking boost system again. But as the amount of time that overtaking boost system is limited to 100 seconds, as that time disappears and is used up by the driver, the light on the roll hoop will change colour. Starts off green, then it will go to red, and then it will switch off altogether. And once it's switched off altogether, no more overtaking boost system. You've just got your standard fuel flow rate, and you're going to have to drive through the field without that boost. And you will see people running out of boost, and essentially they're going to get mugged by the drivers who still have overtaking boosts left. Another thing to bear in, this is a refueling strategy formula. So the teams and drivers are allowed to refuel. They don't always have to refuel, but I think in a closely contested race like here at Fuji Speedway, we're going to see every single car have to put at least a splash of fuel into the tank at the pit stop, and they all have to change tyres at least once. There is a pit window. It usually opens about lap 2 or 3, and it shuts a couple of laps before the end of the race, and you have to stop at some point during that period. These Yokohama tyres, they're designed to last almost the entire race, so you can go pretty deep. But in these cold conditions, nobody's really sure how far the tyres will go, or even if you can do it on a single pit stop, Leigh. I mean, what do you reckon?
I'm not sure. I think actually for this race, it may still be the tire window, maybe from lap 10 to the end of, or to the penultimate lap. It's going to be touch and go. I mean, we are running slightly shorter races this year, so. And this is a very, very quick track, Sam. You know, the drivers will be running it relatively light towards the end. So I don't think we'll see necessarily the kind of coasting you'd see sometimes in Formula 1 by any stretch of the imagination. But I think we're going to see some drivers get very, very close on fuel towards the end of this race. This could be quite an interesting way to end the season.
And we've seen that the fuel, well, this is what happens when the fuel, well, we're not sure it is the fuel burning actually in the back of that number 19 car from Team Impel. Something, Leigh, that makes me wonder about this moment is, I wonder, is the fuel, well, this car's been prepared by one team. The other car 20, that's the championship contender, Hirakawa. Is his car at risk of having the same problem?
I'd be interested to know if that's a fuel line failure, or maybe just an oil overshoot failure, something like that. A fuel line failure seems to be the most. I don't think that's an actual engine failure, Sam. I think something else may have gone up. I'll be surprised.
I'm not sure there, Leigh, because there's something about that. See, if it was a fuel fire, as those who are watching the Bahrain Grand Prix will know what that looks like, that's a kind of black smoke. So is an oil fire. It's a very black, thick smoke. But when an engine fails, as it happened to Nick Cassidy in Suzuki, you get that very distinctive white smoke, which is the oil and water mixing and creates that white smoke and then fire. So I wonder if it was an engine failure and that's what started the fire, because that smoke was distinctly white. That, or we've just selected a new pope and I didn't notice.
What was actually very scary to a degree, I suppose, for Sakaguchi in the car is just how quickly that spread along the engine bay and towards the cockpit. He got out of there very, very, very sharpish. But as mentioned earlier on, surprisingly, he had to run really to get the fire extinguisher out and put the fire out himself for the most part. Before the marshals were able to get there, as we see an interview on the grid with former championship leader Ryo Hirakawa. What really surprised me about that fire is it happened pretty much right beside a photographer's bay, and I don't think a single one of them actually turned around to take a picture. They were looking at the wrong side of the track.
The photographers in Japan, they will know what they're doing. They always get the most spectacular photos. I work a lot with Autosport Japan, unrelated to the English language publication, and the pictures those photographers get, totally different to the ones we see in the West. They are utterly brilliant, their photographers out there. So I'd be shocked if any of them didn't get any of that. But we're still getting questions coming in on the chat, so we'll get to when the race gets going. We will have it obviously live in full here for you on the-race.com. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Nikhil Sai says, could anyone please tell me whether the title has been decided yet? No, it hasn't, in short. So we've got, I think, realistically 4 drivers in with a shout. Nick Cassidy, starting from the back of the grid. He has a mathematical chance of doing it, but he's got a lot of racing to do to win the title. This man, you can see on your screen, he's very much a championship contender. Naoki Yamamoto as well. It's going to be a bit of a showdown, isn't it, Leigh? I mean, I'm going to put you on your limb out there. Who's going to win this? As Nick Cassidy gives... Is that Cassidy? Sorry,
yes, it is.
Yes, gives his masks make it difficult. Gives good luck to his championship contender, and then they turn their back on the camera, which means perhaps they're having a little surreptitious discussion about something.
I could still see Najiri win this championship. It's just, I think Yamamoto, I wonder if there's also still maybe some slight concern with Dandelion Honda, because they had mechanical issues last time out in Suzuka. So they also had a failure at the back of their car, I believe. So I think Najiri's actually in a good spot, and not just in terms of being on pole position. He looks calm, he looks content, he looks ready to go. He looks like a driver who is actually very much enjoying himself this weekend. He's never been in a run in for the championship like this before. The last time he was really in with a shout for a championship of any kind was in the national class of Japanese F3 going back to 2011, or so my pink cards tell me. So yeah, I think he just looks calm. He actually looks as if he's more kind of well within himself. Whereas Yamamoto, a twice champion in this category in 2013 and 2018. Yeah, he's got a little bit to do. He's got Sho Suboi just ahead of him as well. And Sho Suboi is a bit of an unknown to a degree. Sho, of course, won his first Super Formula race this year. He's got nothing to lose. Suboi's down in 8th in the championship. He is no issues with regards to teammates or championship or anything like that. So he's going to be a real unknown in that battle. As we see Nick Cassidy now talking to interviewers on screen.
なんですが、まだチャンピオンの可能性を残しています。意気込み、この後のレースどんな風に組み立てたいですか?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't feel like I was over the limit in qualifying, so not exactly happy about the decision. However, those are the cards that have been dealt to me. I'm a fighter. I now have a huge challenge to start 20th and do the best race I can. So I'll try to put on a show. I've taken off a lot of downforce. Maybe it's not the ultimate, but hopefully I can pass some cars and yeah, put on a show.
That's now just being translated into Japanese. Nick Cassidy there looking very fired up. I think there's going to be a second question, so we'll just get that when they've translated it through. There's normally 2 or 3 questions in these interviews. So we'll fade that back up once they've translated it all for the Japanese spectators. And isn't it great to see spectators at a motor race? Hopefully something we'll see in Europe back in some point in summer of 2021. And is the next question going to Nick Cassidy? I think this is about whether he's going to carry on racing in Japan in 2021 when he's off doing Formula E. This is a big question at the moment.
Yeah, look, thanks very much for all the support over these years. It's been an amazing 6 years of my life. Really enjoyed it. Thank you to Toyota and Team Toms for the opportunity. We've had a lot of success. I'm really proud. Sad to leave, but I hope to be back.
That's pretty definitive that Nick Cassidy wants to be back in racing in Japan, and I think he just got a little update on his phone saying, "You're at the wrong end of the grid, mate. You need to go and get in the car." But knowing what Nick's like, he'll stop and have a chat on the way. Speaking of chat, in the YouTube chat, we've got some great questions coming in. Brian Donahue asked a wonderful question. He asked, "What's your favourite race snack?" Well, at Fuji Speedway, behind the big main grandstand, there's a really long line of like sort of get your merchandise stuff, get your model cars. Some really great model shops, actually. Some good prices at the back of the grandstand there. But also there's different food outlets and stuff up the back of that. And there is one little food outlet that's there at most major races. I think it's there today, that sells yakitori, the little meat on sticks thing that you get in Japan. And I absolutely love that. And having a bite of that, and sometimes during a practice session, I'll go up into the back of the grandstand and sit there and eat some yakitori while watching the cars go by. That's a really nice thing to do. How about you, Leigh? I bet it's potatoes.
No, not quite actually, but what I can say, having covered a lot of 24-hour races over the years, particularly at Spa-Francorchamps, is there's nothing quite like going down to the paddock to get a chocolate waffle at 3 o'clock in the morning. Which probably is the reason why I'm as voluptuous as I am. Nick Cassidy not quite getting a snack down at the moment. Nick Cassidy starting last. As you mentioned, he's got a hell of a job on today. He's fourth in the championship. There really is only one way to go. We're really beginning to see the drivers suit and boot now. We're getting closer to the start of this race. It is delayed, as we mentioned earlier on. Yuki Sekiguchi, his car caught fire in the warm-up session earlier on, just about an hour or so ago. And that's prematurely finished his season. And that's Sekiguchi's teammate Ryo Hirakawa, second in the championship. He'll be looking desperately trying to solidify his first championship today. And as I said earlier on, Sam, I mean, he looked so good for this title in those first 3 rounds. After his second place as Sugo, he was, if I remember correctly, 15 points ahead of, I can't remember if that was Nakajima who was second in the championship at that stage. He was a long way ahead, and it's just crashed really in this second half of the season. As we see the grid coming on screen now, is Tomoki Nojiri with his second pole position of the season. Alongside him, Sho Tsuboi. Naoki Yamamoto third on the grid, leading the championship with 56 points. He's got Nobu Matsushita just alongside. Matsushita crashed out heavily in Suzuka. He won't want to repeat that today. Ukyo Sasahara fifth on the grid. It's his best qualifying in Super Formula so far. And then he got Fukuzumi alongside with Toshiki Oyu, winner last time out in Suzuka, takes 7th. Hirakawa is 8th alongside him. Then it's the 5th row of the grid with Kazuya Oshima. It's by far his best qualifying of this season. He's normally qualified 15th to 19th, now 9th. Yehu Sekiguchi not starting, car on fire. Boom, boom, boom. Kazuki Nakajima 11th on the grid with Hiroki Ishura along him. It's his final race in Super Formula, full stop. While Sasha Fenestrazi, Kenta Yamashita rounding out a difficult qualifying session again for Kondo Racing. And then you got the rookie Hiroki Otsu. He's starting for Nakajima Racing. We'll get onto that momentarily. Charles Malaysia alongside him. Then we get towards the back of the grid. Kamui Kobayashi. His difficult season continues. Alongside him is his Team KCMG teammate Yuji Kunimoto. Then the back of the grid, Tatiana Calderon and Nick Cassidy. And actually, it does remind me, Sam, we haven't mentioned it yet, that Otsu is in the Nakajima racing car today. Get well soon to Tadasuke Makino, who is come down with a rather unfortunate case of meningitis.
Yeah, he's been hospitalised with meningitis, which isn't what you normally expect to hear at this time of pandemic. But sure enough, he's found another affliction to come down with, and hopefully he gets better soon, and is fit and ready to go for next season of racing. But what a shame for the Honda driver to miss out on this championship finale at Toyota's home circuit. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this man, Naoki Yamamoto, is going to spoil Toyota's big day out at the home circuit. You can see his form on your screen there, 3rd, 2nd and a 1st. And it would have been another good finish in Suzuka if the engine or something on the car hadn't let go at the last time out. Final round, will he make amends and steal the championship? it's important to note that who owns the circuit here, not just because of the nature of who owns it. It's actually the cars in this series have to run on the fuel available in the paddock. So if the circuit like Suzuka is owned by Honda, then the fuel in the paddock is the fuel that Honda wants to be on sale in the paddock. But at Fuji Speedway, Toyota venue, the fuel in the paddock should suit the Toyota engine a little bit better. It doesn't always work out like that.
No, we have seen a little bit of a divide like that at several circuits this year. The first part of the season was really very much a lot of Honda power cars, a lot of Honda victories and good positions there, while Toyotas have come on a lot stronger in the second half of the season, as we see that's Ryo Hirakawa 8th on the grid. His mechanics, they're just patiently waiting now. We must remember, of course, because of the colder temperatures, we're running much later on in the year. There are 2 warm-up laps before this race gets going. So when you see the cars and drivers go around one time, they will not stop on the grid. They will continue for a second formation lap before they finally line up on the grid and start this last race of 2020. And Sam, I think it's fair to say this is probably, I believe, at least the final international race of the year, a full stop anywhere.
I can't think of another one, yeah. No Boxing Day classics or anything like that, and no sort of New Year's Eve races like the big sort of sports car race at Adelaide all those years back. So yeah, I think this is the final international motor race and the final race in Japan. For now, at least for this man, Nick Cassidy, and the final race, it seems, with a combustion engine behind him. The former New Zealand Grand Prix winner off to go and play in Formula E, using Envision Virgin Racing. But as the crowd gets to their feet, the reason they're all standing up like that is we're about to hear the Japanese national anthem. Well, as the Japanese national anthem draws to its conclusion, it's nearly time to go racing, but there's still just a little bit of time for a few questions to come in from the chat. Xavier Scale Model asks, do you happen to know, are there any Super Formula model kits? Well, I'm reliably informed that Tamiya model 92417 is a Yokohama Advan Shadow Shark Dallara SF19 model kit. I'm not sure if it's a radio-controlled model or a static plastic kit.
Also, another question in the chat there, is Ryo Hirakawa a Red Bull Junior driver? That's from David X Xavier. I don't believe he is a Red Bull Junior driver per se. I believe he is a Red Bull affiliated athlete. And to really tell the difference between the two, he's not part of any particular junior program or anything like that, but he would star maybe in several marketing programs or things like that, but would not actually be part of the Red Bull race team. Similar to Nick Cassidy, who I'm not sure if this is going to continue or not next season, but he is also, as far as I am aware, a Red Bull athlete as opposed to member of the Red Bull team.
That's quite correct, Leigh. Ricky Raffinaldo has asked, which one is faster, a Formula 3 car or a Super Formula car? Well, it's not even in the same ballpark. These Super Formula cars are the fastest single-seaters outside of Formula 1 by some margin, significantly faster than F2, Indycar, and Formula 3. Well, Formula 3 is the support category for Super Formula. Super Formula Lights is essentially an FIA regional F3 category. As the warm-up lap gets going, it looks like every single car is getting away. As I say that, curse of the commentator, not quite everybody. Everybody is getting away fine. No, there's a yellow flag waving, and absolutely weighed in with curse of the commentator by saying that momentarily too soon there is a car stuck on the starting grid. It is the Free Bond
Calderon.
Yeah, it's the Free Bond liveried car of Tatiana Calderon, who has not had much luck this season, it's fair to say. When she has got the car up and running, well, it looks like she can't get it into gear or something, or it's not firing. Not quite sure what the issue there is there for Tatiana. Yeah, she's seen me trying to go, and it won't. It's certainly in neutral. So maybe she was trying to pull first gear and it just wouldn't select first gear. Now, she may have an opportunity to get going and start from the pit lane in this situation. That's what the marshals are pointing at. There's a little way for the cars to get back to the starting grid, so this shouldn't lead to an abandoned formation lap, though we have seen that. There you go. There's the race format coming up. 40 laps of this Fuji Speedway. That's 182.52 kilometers, if you're counting, or 70 minutes of racing from light to flag. I think in these conditions we probably won't get to the 70 minutes. It'll be that straight up 40 laps. The expected pit window, well, the logical thing to do would come in on around lap 20. However, the tyre degradation could mean, and the track position could mean, it might be beneficial to come in early or come in very late, just to see how things play out. There you go with those pit windows. The pit, if you're allowed to stop from lap 20 right up until the penultimate lap. Stop early, you'll have to come back to the pit. Stop late, well, that's your problem. But you have to pit within that window. If you don't, there's going to be penalties all around, morally hazardous. Single compound of tyre in Super Formula this year. All cars on Yokohama tyres, all the same compound.
They're all softs from last year, Dave, isn't it?
They are all the softs from last year. There was never a hard tyre. It never really made a great lot of sense. We had a medium and soft last year. And, oh, well, there is a car that is struggling with the tyre. That is Charles Malaysia, who has dropped it in the warm-up. And I wonder if that is cold tyre syndrome. We should get a replay of this. Now, that, if they can't recover it, could lead to a suspension of the formation lap, and Malaysia is out of the race. Well,
he stalled it, Sam. It looks like he stalled it after spinning. So I think you may be right. It is still very, very cool. It is, after all, 5 days before Christmas, and that's not a Christmas present for Malaysia in his first year of Super Formula. Hasn't really had much of an opportunity to show himself this year because he missed the first half of the season due to being in Europe. But that is not how he wanted to end the season at all. If he has just spun out there on cold tyres and stalled the engine. As you mentioned, this may add to the formation lap. Because they should be on the second formation lap by now. They're still working on getting Tatiana Calderon's car going.
Well, there's a question that's come in on the chat from Damien Mueller, and it's an absolutely perfect question. How many formation laps this week? 1 or 6? Well, that's mentioning what happened last time out. We had about 6. So the cars are coming up to what should be the starting grid. Let's wait and see what happens. We have had some slightly different race starts in recent times here on Super Formula, and we'll see what happens when this car reaches his grid slot. Will he just be waved through? Will we get a restart? I'm not sure he entirely knows. Look at the way he's continuing to warm his tyres right up to the start line. I think there is some uncertainty here, Leigh, so we'll just stick with this. And let's see what the officials say. Are we going to get a race start for this, the 2020 Super Formula Championship finale? The air temperature is 9 degrees. The track temperature is 13 degrees. It's increased. The sun is beating down on the flanks of Mount Fuji. There is a cold wind blowing along the start-finish straight. It's going to be chilly in the grandstand, but the action is going to be super hot on the track. The cars are lining up in their grid positions as planned. We are going to get the start this first time out.
So Cassidy starts last, Calderon stalled and is in the pit lane. Kunimoto from 18th and Kobayashi 17th. Malaysia spun off in a warm-up lap, we won't see him. Then Otsu in his debut starts 15th, just behind Kenta Yamashita 14th, and Sasha Finish 13th. Hiroki Yoshiro in his final Super Formula race starts 12th with Kazuki Nakajima 11th. Yuhi Sakaguchi did qualify 10th, he won't start due to a fire in the warm-up. Kazuya Oshima starts 9th, then Hirakawa 8th, Toshiki Oi 7th, Narei Fukusumi 6th. Ukyo Sasahara in his best qualifying in 5th. Nobuharu Matsushita starts 4th. Naoki Yamamoto, championship leader, starts 3rd. Sho Suboi will be 2nd on the grid on the front row. And leading away from pole position, 3rd in the championship with 47 points is Tomoki Nojiri in the Mugen car. We got a green flag at the back, Sam. We are about ready to go.
Yeah, we will see that green flag wave momentarily. He's taking his time, isn't he?
Where's the medical car, Sam?
It'll be somewhere back waiting to come out of the pit lane. The green flag is waved. The 5 lights are coming on for the last time in 2020. This is Super Formula on the-race.com, and it's a good start all round. Cassidy at the back working his way through, but they're already 4 and 5 wide into turn 1. Will they all get through cleaning? Wheels locked up on the inside. They're banging wheels through that first corner, and off the track goes one of the TCS Nakajima racing cars. The Inging Motorsport car of Sho Suboi now is in the lead, but the BMAX engineering car making a very aggressive move up into 2nd position. And the Team Mugen car of, well, that is interesting. Team Mugen car of Tomoki Nojiri is, well, he looks to have fallen back slightly to 3rd position. Yeah.
He's lost another couple of positions there, Sam. I think he's running in 3rd place. I think he's got Yamamoto just behind him. Sasahara still 5th, but a fantastic start there by Sho Suboi to grab the lead in the gaggle. Nobuharu Matsushita really slicing his way through. Started 4th, he's in 2nd already. Good start for him. And I believe Nick Cassidy trying to make some positions at the back, running side by side with Kazuya Oshima, who looks like to have had a bad start, but he's not made too many positions yet. Still, we're on the first lap of 40, Sam, and it is Sho Suboi out front.
Yeah, Cassidy making some really brave lunges round the outside in that final sector. Moves that you'd normally not see a championship car try and make. Cassidy has made up 8 positions on that first lap. I would love to see the onboard footage from that one. There's a request to JRP for that one. And you can see those overtaking system lights flashing already, but the draft train is already going. There's passing going on right down the field. And I think that big explosion of movement in the midfield was caused by Nick Cassidy just charging through the field. I think we're seeing something special here, everybody. Look at the back. That green and white Vantolin Team Tom's car, it's the 2nd one in the line, is really moving forward. Already almost on terms with Nakajima. Cassidy is up to 12th position.
Helped a little bit, I suppose, with Fukuzumi. Had an awful start. There were several cars in the top of the park who were very, very, very tentative going around the first corner, Sam. And Fukuzumi was one of those who really, really lost out. As we see Sho Suboi, he's got a lead over Matsushita of about 7/10 of a second at the moment. Nojiri's still in 3rd place. That's not really going to be enough for Nigeria. He needs to get out front and actually lead this race to get enough of an advantage to make that really count in the title standings.
Well, just here's something to pay attention to. Sasha Fenestras, he's finished the first lap.
And shocking as it is, he's for the first time actually he really was the cause of his own retirement last time out in Suzuka. He's had an awful lot of bad luck in several rounds this year.
Did you see that, Leo Gorman? The sausage curb on the exit of the final corner sent this car, I believe it was, absolutely airborne on the exit of the corner. All 4 wheels in the air, and that is why even with the overtaking boost system, he has left himself wide open to a passing manoeuvre there. That is really going to hurt the drivers back in the morning. The car was fully airborne on the exit of the corner.
And that was Sasahara having the issue there. But look just behind him, Sam, it's Ryu Hirakawa. Had a good start, was 8th, now in 6th place. And he was hoping to get another position there. Hasn't quite worked out for him, but he also needs to move forward as we have an early stopper, and that's too early. Fukuzumi. That's Fukuzumi. He had an off on the first lap, which is, I wonder if this is another, Tatiana Calderon.
Yeah, Tatiana Calderon is down in 18th position.
She, of course, yes, she started in the pit lane from the pits, of course, yes. After her after her stall, she must be near enough a lap down.
Yeah, she's on your screen. You can see she's 1:30, so she's just about to lose the lead lap. For Kazumi there in the pits, he will have to stop again. And look, he's coming out of the pits, but you'll see the front of the pack. There it is, appearing at the end of the start-finish straight. So he's going to be into the blue flag zone because those tyres are going to be stone cold. But look at this big train of cars. It looks a bit like one of those old school Formula 3 races on a high-speed circuit. Tatiana Calderon is back out on track. She's made up a position, and she'll soon be battling with Nire Fukuzumi at the back of the field, but a lap down already.
It's Sasahara under pressure again from Hirakawa. Hirakawa using the overtake boost gets Sasahara. That is 5th place for the former championship leader, and it's clasping hands there in the Impol garage as to see their championship charge. He really needs to get up the order. He needs more than anything. He actually just needs to get ahead of Yamamoto. That is Hirakawa's big challenge today, is get ahead of Yamamoto. As long as Najiri is in 3rd, that's not really going to be too much of an issue. If Hirakawa can get ahead of Yamamoto, realistically, the championship will almost certainly come down to a tie break, and I'll have to actually look through my notes to see who wins on that case.
Where I think there's a little bit of a vagary in the regulations. It might be on countback, and if countback isn't clear, then I think I believe there might be wording in the regulations that says something along the lines of the organisers can make it go up, make it up as they go along. A lot of people asking about what the T and the H on the leaderboard there on your screen says. Well, T, it means it's got a Toyota engine in the back of it, and H means it's got a Honda engine in the back of it. And as we can see, Honda having a very good day out, but the race leader has Toyota power. But the leading championship contender in a Toyota-powered car is Hirakawa, and he has just moved up past Sasahara and is now on the tail of Naoki Yamamoto. That is going to be an on-track battle for the championship lead. Will Sugoi be able to offer any help to Hirakawa, because he's a little bit isolated, being the only Toyota runner in a battle of Hondas. There, Nakajima is getting hassled quite nicely by Kenta Yamashita in the number 3 Toyota-powered Dallara there.
Whereas Nakajima had just got past Kenta Yamashita. He was running 10th, now running 9th. Cassidy, meanwhile, still 12th place behind Sasha Fenestras, who hasn't made a huge amount of ground up in this race so far. As we move back to the front of the order, you got Sasahara under pressure there from the race winner last time out, Toshiki Oyu. So much emotion from Oyu when he got out of the car last time out. It was actually it was a joy to see as he blubbered away in the car, and then in the paddock, and then on the podium. And Sugoi doing everything right. You know, it's not really, so see the live championship standings, as it were, is the position say is Yamamoto would be the champion. Najiri, he's done a really, really good job so far this year. It's definitely been his most positive season so far in Super Formula. He had that race win on Autopolis and King's absolutely brilliant pole position there as well. Could really have made a little bit more of him in the first race of Suzuka. He was 2nd, and then I think this was a stall. There was a mechanical issue on the way to the grid at Suzuka, which actually cost him his front row position. He had to start last and ended up 7th. But as we see a replay of the start, Najiri getting away on the right-hand side. Must have been a slow way, because you could just see Yamamoto really peering out as well. Matsushita, watch out for Matsushita on the inside, smoking right front tyre. Got him the inside of Yamamoto. And this is where we kind of lose the screen for a moment. I think it was on the exit of that he was able to get ahead of Najiri.
Well, the question came in, the question that I promised to get an answer for about the abbreviations for driver names. Some drivers have their first name as an abbreviation. Tatiana Calderon is just Tat, and other drivers have their surnames. Nick Cassidy is Cass, for obvious reasons. Why is it sometimes first name? Why is it sometimes last name? I endeavoured to find out and just drew a blank. However, our producer saying the graphics guy comes up with them and the broadcast team agrees with him, asks him to change them, which doesn't really answer your question. However, a question that does need to be asked is, can Matsushita do anything about the 1.3 second lead there of Sugoi? Both of them have got fully armed and fully loaded and ready to use overtaking boost system, but this is the battle where you might see those systems being deployed. Both of them, though, keeping their powder dry. Naoki Yamamoto and Hirakawa on his tail there, the number 20 car. Just ahead of the pair of them is Najiri, who is also just about in championship contention, but not in the way that the car in 12th, Nick Cassidy, is. And his early race charge seems to have been blunted a bit. I wonder if Kazuki Nakajima can back in Kenta Yamashita and Sasha Fenestras into the number 1 car of the Vantolin Team Toms of Nick Cassidy. But Muraoka-san from the Docomo team at Dandelion, he's happy with the way things are. Naoki Yamamoto sitting in 4th position, right now the championship leader. There is an awful long way to go. We're only on lap 7 of 40 here on the-race.com. Don't forget to hit like, don't forget to hit subscribe. We've got a Christmas break coming up, as many of us do, particularly with the ongoing pandemic. Most of us are going to be locked into our houses if you live where I do. Plenty of time to watch all of the Super Formula races you like over the last 2 seasons here on this channel, as car 20 deploys his overtaking boost system. Hirakawa is now charging up to the back of Naoki Yamamoto, who doesn't appear to be defending too hard. This could be quite a battle.
This would actually be a key overtake, Sam, if Hirakawa can get past Yamamoto, and this could really change the face of the championship, change the face of this race. Yamamoto has been dropped somewhat by Tomoki Nojiri. The gap between them is 2.2 seconds, and this would give, I think it would actually give Hirakawa a 1-point advantage at the end of this race if they did swap from 4th to 5th, but it's a long way to go. And Sam, I have got a question for you. We are towards the end of December now. Track temperature is cool. It's not as cold as we were expecting, but it is cool. But how are these cooler temperatures affecting the Yokohama tyres?
Well, we could see what we call graining on the tyres partway through the race, where the car's been scrabbling around to get that grip in. But it does seem that 10 to 14 degree track temperature has just brought these tyres into their operational windows. We saw teams bolting on the race set of compounds at the start of on the starting grid. Those are the ones that have just been rolled out of those tyre warming cupboards. So I think we will see that. I think also the TV cameraman there watching the race, the 3rd position car, Nojiri, was watching the wrong car, because it's these 2 cars that we really want to be seeing, because they're getting very racy along the start-finish straight. The battle between Hirakawa and Naoki Yamamoto is livening up, but also further back, we're not watching it at the moment, but we really need to be. Nick Cassidy is really cutting through the field. He's just gone past Sasha Fenestraz. He's right on the tail of Kenta Yamashita, who's on the tail of his own teammate, Kazuki Nakajima. That mid-grid pack is closing up, and there is a championship contender there as well. And Tomoki Nojiri is driving around the track pretty much on his own. Yes, he's going quite quickly and will soon be on the back of Matsushita, but there's still a bit of a gap, as you can see on your screen. And I'd love to see the charge through from Nick Cassidy against Kenta Yamashita, and how he got past Sasha Fenestraz. We haven't actually seen that.
And Ian Paul on the chat saying smash the like button, and we completely agree. You really should like, subscribe, join, and watch lots of racing on the race.com, the-race.com YouTube channel. Lots of great content out there, including Super Formula you're watching now, Super GT. What a season ending that was earlier on this year, Sam. As we see Nobuharu Matsushita, the 2nd place man, chasing after the race leader, Sho Suboi. Sho Suboi has already won a race this year. He wants to make it too. Matsushita came in at B-Max to replace Sergio Sette Camara, who very much busy with Red Bull Racing for most of this year. He's their simulator driver. Came in at his first race of the season and said he wanted at least a top 6, and he actually got it first time out at Autopolis. I tried to make sure.
I tried to, speaking of the Benson Jutton, I actually tried to arrange Jenson Button to test one of these Super Formula cars a couple of years ago, and he was initially up for it. For various reasons, he was unable to do it, and I think he lost interest. Sam, he usually tunes in and watches, and we get the race leader is looking like he's coming in for a pit stop, or it's been Nojiri actually, that crew. Team Mugen is out for Nojiri, so they will be coming in from 3rd position to make a very early stop. This is the opening of the pit window, of course, on lap 10, the earliest you're allowed to make a pit stop.
And it'd be an interesting tactic if that is the case, because a lot of the rear enders of the field have dropped several seconds, quite a few several seconds behind the race leaders. Anyone who pitting, if any of the front runners pit now, may find themselves in clear air for a short amount of time, but they're not going to be that far behind the rear of the pack, and we'll see it now as Nojiri does come in. And I wonder really if maybe that's one of the reasons the director was following Nojiri, if they knew that he was going to pit earlier on. Someone else coming in as well, I think that might be Toshiki Oyu in the Nakajima racing car. Gathering the Kondo racing team may also be in the pits waiting.
Yamashita is in.
Yamashita coming in there now. So Yes, Oyu, Yamashita and Coleman Nojiri all pit. Makes sense for Yamashita and Oyu because they can get out on a lot of clear air and make up quite a lot of time. It's slow, it's slow, it's slow.
The right front wheel nut, the right front wheel nut was dropped and rolled across the pit lane. That was a disastrous stop. That I think the Team Mugen made a real mistake there. The mechanic on the right front dropped the wheel nut. It rolled under the car, out into the pit lane, and that could result in a penalty because that was a dangerous situation. That was definitely an unsafe bit of pit lane practice. So he may get a penalty for that. Certainly, it was morally hazardous. The race directors will be taking a look at that, and that has cost Tomoki Nojiri a chunk of time, and he will not be happy with that stop. Hopefully, the right front is bolted on. A lot of the mechanics will keep a spare wheel nut on their belts just in case that situation happens. But as we cut to looking at car 20 now, still hunting down car 5, Docomo Team Dandelion under pursuit from Team Impul, and they're both pursuing each other down pit lane. Are they? No. They were feinting a little bit. They were both... Yeah, there's a little bit of mind games going on there between these two teams, isn't there? There's a few more cars head to pit roads.
Absolutely, that was a little bit of dummy playing there as several drivers coming into pits. As we say, Ishura coming in there, Kazuki Nakajima behind him. I believe the Nakajima team are out in the pit lane as well. That might be for Hiroki Otsu, who's pitting from 13th place. Yeah, I think you're right, Sam. I think that is potentially going to be a penalty because the pit mechanic ran into the actual fast lane of the pit crew. He may have, had a look around just to make sure there was no one coming, but the fact of the matter is he did run into the fast lane of the pit lane. I can't imagine that not being a penalty. As we watch Hirakawa and Yamamoto battling for 3rd and 4th place. And let's not forget, if that is a penalty for Nojiri and that does take him out of contention, then that battle for 3rd and 4th becomes a hell of a lot more feisty because there's far more points on offer for those positions.
7 seconds. Just waiting to see it update. 13.6 seconds behind the race leader is Nick Cassidy running in 6th position. Now, watch this. Ryo Hirakawa, his crew looked like they were getting ready for him, but he's not come to pit road. So was that a missed radio call, or was that a debate between the two? Well, there's an interesting... It's the driver disagreeing with his pit crew that it's a good time to come to pit road and make a stop. The crew were definitely ready for him. The rookie racing crew were ready for Oshima. He's come in and made his stop. No sign of Cassidy yet. I think he's going to go deep into this race. And, well, the TV director's looking for cars coming in the pit lane as well as us. Well, we need to watch Ryo Hirakawa. His team are ready on pit roads. Is he going to come in? What about Naoki Yamamoto? Docomo Team Dandelion, no sign of them on a pit road yet. Are they going to go deep to try and cover off the charging Nick Cassidy? He's 13.6 seconds down. Will he be able to make that up on pit stops? Hard to say.
Interesting, Sam. Interesting. Now we have the likes of Nojiri, etc., have pitted. Because so many other drivers in the midfield to lower midfield have also stopped, Nojiri has actually come out in clean air. The drivers who he would have come out behind are no longer there. So he's now actually setting lap times that are the guts of half a second to 1 second a lap faster than Sho Suboi and Matsushita up front. So this could be the strategy that actually turns the race around for him. Now, this may only be initial kind of race pace. We'll probably see the times drop off reasonably quickly before plateauing for the rest of the race. We haven't really seen significant amounts of tyre degradation this year. It's just very, very quick initial pace, and then kind of like what we see sometimes in Super GT, the tyres plateau relatively quickly as we see Yamamoto still on track fending off Hirakawa. But Nojiri is making hay while the sun shines, as we're waiting for... And it's a dummy. That's a team. So it looks like they've gone back in.
That was unhappy mechanics there, Leigh. I mean, they were not happy with that situation. Don't forget, those tyres have come out of that warming cabinet. They've been sitting on them in pit road with their bums getting nice and toasty. But actually, with those tyres, all that time they're sitting on pit road, those tyres have been cooled. That's why the mechanic was getting grumpy. Now they're being told to go and take the tyres away, put them back into that warming cabinet. He's going to come to the pits a little bit later on. Interestingly, looking at those lap times, 1 second of this sort of thing Rob Smedley whispers into my ear during a Grand Prix. 1 second of degradation per 14 laps. That's enormous. That's putting you into two-stop strategy territory.
One thing that's interesting, Sam, I wonder have they actually called Hirakawa over the radio into the pits. I wonder if he's overruled them, and that's really what's probably bringing up some of the ire in the pit crew as well. As Hirakawa comes in.
Oh, well, this is surprising. So the team didn't really know what they were doing. Those tyres were taken back into the garage. Maybe they've gone and got a different set that were in the tyre cabinet. This is a little bit of disorganisation from Team Impel. They didn't look too together in the last time round. Now the mechanics are ready. Let's have a look at this stop. No jumping over the front of the car today. Not required. Just jumping over the robo-jack. And fairly routine stop there for Hirakawa. 7.3 seconds onto those Yokohamas. Are they fully up to temperature? Well, we'll find out. Now, will Docomo Team Dandelion react to that stop from their championship rivals? That is interesting. Just having a look at the instant replay, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can see quite clearly the mechanic on the right.
It's off, Sam. Hirakawa went off track.
It's just cold tyres.
Nojiri actually got out ahead of him, and so has Oyu, but with the potential loss of temperatures in the tyres, Hirakawa went straight off, exiting turn 1.
Yeah, that's the cold tyre effect. No harm done, but the key thing is Nojiri is ahead of him. He has lost some positions. He is going to be struggling for pace. Now here comes Docomo Team Dandelion responding to that, trying to cover off that pit stop attempt. They think they're at risk of undercut from the rival team, their Team Impel. And bear in mind, this is lap 16. We're either going to see really high degradation or 2 stops in this race. This is really early for this flurry of pit stops. Let's not forget, Nick Cassidy's also still out there pumping in the lap times. What are his lap times like?
He's in the early 23s.
Yeah, so not too bad.
So it does seem to be hitting a point where they lose initial speed for a few laps, but then it kind of plateaus in the 23. We've not seen significant drop-off yet, but that's not to say it won't happen after 30 laps. Who knows? We will see.
Yeah, but that could give the advantage. Certainly the shuffle has gone to Cassidy, who's now running in 5th position, but that will cycle through. I think Yamamoto will be behind Cassidy.
Yamamoto's just been passed by Nojiri and Oyu. It's actually, that has cost...
it is a championship fight now, though, Leigh. Look, that's the championship battle going around the outside. This is the battle for the 2020 Super Formula title. Naoki Yamamoto in the white Docomo car. The Team Impel car up the inside is Hirakawa, and he goes through. Will Yamamoto be able to respond? Those tyres aren't up to temperature. This was a nice little battle, wasn't it? That is not done yet, though. You're going to see that overtaking boost system deployed. He's gone red on his roll hoop. He's running out of overtaking boost. Yamamoto's still got it on green. He can still go further on that 100 seconds of extra fuel flow. There's Sho Suboi, I think. He's in for a change. It's always difficult to tell those two cars apart. That is the 39 car of Sho Suboi. The girl is winking on the rear wing end plate. That's how you tell, along with the giant number.
And that, of course, is the former race leader, Sho Suboi. Now, it'll be interesting because I think we have Nojiri coming down the pit straight here. I think he may still have enough of a gap over Nojiri to keep... Oh, actually, this could be very, very, very close as Sho Suboi gets up to speed. Here comes the Tomoki Nojiri. This is for the race lead as we see the Hirakawa and... Yamamoto still battling for a position. Yamamoto's got back past Sam. He's got back past, but he goes wide into turn 1. Hirakawa goes down the inside, but it's not quite there yet. Yamamoto just has enough of a gap to stay ahead of his Team Impel rival, and the 2-time Super Formula champion keeps the position. But Tomoki Nojiri, it'll be interesting to see if he's actually has got the race lead, as Hirakawa's not giving up. He's going for the position again.
Oh, they're not going to give up at any point. They're not going to give up at any point
between these two.
Yeah, they're never going to give this one up, Leigh. That was a great example of the overtaking boost system at work. Now you're seeing it again, going up the inside. Oh, that's a really brave manoeuvre if you're going for a championship. Trying to go round the outside, round the inside. The Team Impel car of Hirakawa nearly loses the rear end going through the final chicane. Can he keep the pace going all the way through? They're both throwing these cars around. They're going to absolutely kill their tyres doing this. Nick Cassidy, though, he's up to second, 4 seconds off the lead. A little way up the road. Cassidy's strategy is playing out quite nicely. Sasahara is your race leader right now, but no one cares about that. He hasn't stopped yet. Here at the front of the field, you'll see those two battling cars coming out of that really quite artistic Top Gun opening sequence like light. But at the top of your screen, that is the battle for the championship. Forget the battle for the lead for right now. This is the battle for the championship we need to care about. There they are, red roll hoop there. That is the team Impul car of Hirakawa. His overtaking boost system is getting more and more limited, whereas that of Naoki Yamamoto with the green light on his roll hoop for now is okay. He's beginning to gap a little bit, that number 20 car, but they will be fighting. I think it's time for the man in the timing tower to press those buttons and see where we are in terms of championship points as the race would finish now. It's a little bit unpredictable because Nick Cassidy, of course, has not come to pit road yet.
Naira, of course, has Ukyo Sasahara, the Team Mugen driver, leading this race, 4.1 seconds ahead of Nick Cassidy. Third race in the race at the moment is Sasha Fenestras. He has actually stopped, but I don't think he's done his mandatory stop. I think that he may have come in before the lap 10.
So I think he's done his stop. He has done his stop there, Leigh. We didn't see it, but I think Sasha did his stop and came and went. He was battling with Cassidy early on and got past, and then he did come in for his stop. We just didn't see it. But Fenestras is falling down the order somewhat, but I think that is on the pit cycles, sort of cycling out. Car to watch, this is interesting. Nick Cassidy is 4.1 seconds behind Ukyo Sasahara in second. He's in second, Cassidy in second position. He's 26 seconds ahead of Sho Suboi. 7 seconds for a pit stop. The pit lane loss is about 27. Cassidy's making the strategy work.
But he also needs another potentially 3 seconds or so on the outlap to make that work as well. You could, for absolute safety, you're probably looking at maybe the guts of 30 to 35 seconds to make absolute certain of getting in and out of the pits. It is a relatively long pit lane here at Fuji Speedway as well, which is something the teams have also been taking into account. As you see Yamamoto fending off Ryo Hirakawa. Hirakawa's desperately want to get it past Yamamoto. The championship is here. It's between these guys who are currently running 7th and 8th place. But it's disappointing.
Well, Leigh, no, it's not between these two of the current situation. If Cassidy keeps running the way he's going, he is quicker than these two cars right now. Cassidy is driving himself into a great position. This is the move we didn't see. So this is Naoki Yamamoto using the overtaking boost system to get past Hirakawa, but Hirakawa gets straight back into the toe on Yamamoto. Yamamoto suddenly surprises himself with how fast the car's going, outbrakes himself into the first corner, and they come into this brilliant bit of wheel-to-wheel action coming out of that section. Now here they are on track. That battle's far from over. But yeah, Cassidy is driving himself into a podium position at the moment. His last lap was a 1:23.1, his fastest lap of the race. To put that into perspective, Naoki Yamamoto on the fresh tyres, he's just done his fastest lap, a slightly slower 1:23.1. Everybody else is going slightly slower than Cassidy at the moment. So Cassidy is making time on the field. This strategy is playing out quite neatly. And if it does, Cassidy could completely leapfrog this battle and go off, get that track position. And he could be driving straight into another championship.
And it's interesting, as I believe the Team Mugen guys may be out in the pit lane. Cassidy has been driving in relatively clean air for much of this, the latest part of the stint, because he has been that 4 seconds behind Sasahara, as well, 3.5 seconds now. He is still setting lap times in the early 1:20, early 1:23, Sam. So good effort so far. As you see Sasahara in the pits for the Team Mugen team. Cassidy now leads this race. This will be interesting to see how long he can go. Or will he do it? Will he actually run as late as humanly possible? There's smoke coming off the brakes there, Sam, as the tyres came off.
Did you see the state of the right front tyre? It was absolutely blistered to beyond doom on the front of Ukyo Sasahara's car. That gives us a real indication that these tyres will do 21 laps, and that is about it. And, well, Cassidy doesn't seem to be believing that because he's setting great pace, but will he start seeing that drop-off in performance? We're beyond half distance here in the Super Formula 2020 finale as the championship battle passes Ukyo Sasahara as expected. And that tells us that Nick Cassidy is only just ahead of this pair. Actually, on timing, he's just behind them. But the lap times he's setting, he will start to move past them. This is pitch strategy playing out in real time. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. There is so much more action to come here at Fuji Speedway. 19 laps to go. And the championship right now is wide open here in the 2020 Super Formula finale, live from Fuji Speedway. And there is your race leader. Will he become the championship leader before the end of the day? Nick Cassidy, still a fully loaded overtaking boost system. He's got a lot of promise. His lap times are everything right now. There you see him. He's getting faster. He's just done his fastest lap of the race at 22.8. He is taking heaps of time out of the field. Cho Suboi is also going extremely quickly, but he's not a championship contender. He's also 27.5 seconds behind this man, Nick Cassidy. If Cassidy keeps driving like this, he is going to drive himself from last to third in a purely strategic way. What a brilliant run if he makes this work. Car 16, you can see, you saw it just on your screen. He is way down the order from where he started in 4th.
So yes, the gap really that Cassidy, etc., will be looking at is going to be to the likes of Yamamoto and Hirakawa, who, of course, he still absolutely needs to clear Oyu, Najiri, Matsushita and Sho Suboi as it stands at the moment. He's on the way to doing that, as we see Oshima battling there with Hiroki Ishura, who's in his final Super Formula race. That is over 13th and 14th position. Just ahead of them is Kamui Kobayashi running 12th. And 15th, actually the rear of the trio there, is Hiroki Otsu, who's having his debut Super Formula round this weekend, sitting in for the unwell Terasuke Makino. Hiroki Ishura, you know, as we mentioned earlier on, a twice champion at this level. Last won the championship in Super Formula in 2017, 39 years old, and moving on to pastures anew, shall we say, for 2021. As we see Hiroki Otsu there doing a solid job, I think it's fair to say. Just jumped in to the Nakajima car pretty short notice.
Tata Communications Systems Nakajima Racing there, in case you were wondering. TCS Nakajima, sponsored by the Indian conglomerates. One of the reasons that Narain Karthikeyan was involved in this championship for a while. Tata to Super Formula, and they've hung around ever since, finding that it's quite a good series to be involved in, and we don't disagree.
Here is Otsu making a move on Oshima for 14th place, and not bad. Good job for the 26-year-old. Who also races with Nakajima Racing in GT 500. As we see, Nick Cassidy cross the line to start another lap. It's a 1 minute 22.7. Sam, that is again his fastest lap of the race so far. The gap to Yamamoto, as it stands, is in the region of 37 seconds.
Well, the key thing here has just been pointed out in the chat. So if Cassidy wins and Naoki Yamamoto and Hirakawa are outside of the top 4, which they are, of course, at the moment, if Cassidy can pit and come back out in the lead, which it's looking like he's building up to that position with these laps he's running, he is driving into that lead position very brilliantly. He would actually be in championship winning form at the moment.
He would indeed be very now. As it stands at the moment, Yamamoto in 6th place and Hirakawa in 7th place. We'll be looking at 5 and 4 points for them respectively. Not really the kind of total that they would normally be gunning for. A win for Cassidy would in effect give him 65 points. So that would actually give him the championship off the top of my head by about 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, that's right. So Cassidy is looking quite nice at the moment. However, he still needs to keep these tyres alive for as long as possible. Keep opening out this gap so he can leave the pits in the race lead. That's super important. Then he can keep driving off on those fresh tyres, and that'll give him a huge advantage. But there's huge pressure then on the Vantolin Team Tom's pit crew, and we have already seen a little bit of a pit boo-boo from another team already.
I think what we're seeing on screen there, Sam, is the times for the drivers spent in the pits. So that is the roundabout time loss, which kind of makes sense. Nojiri lost 5 seconds really compared to everyone else, as the mechanics were fumbling around looking for the lost wheel nut that time. So we're looking in around 38 to 40 seconds to completely clear the pit lane.
Yeah, so Cassidy's got to go out in the next 10 laps, really. Got to go out and find 10 seconds ahead of Sho Suboi. Or, well, really, he's got to find 10 seconds ahead of sort of Suboi and Matsushita. If they get in front of him, he gets out on fresh tyres. He can still race back past them. He's got a lot of overtaking boosts. It's crucial, though, he gets in front of Yamamoto in Hirakawa, but he's already in the window to do that. It's now getting in front of Oyu, Nojiri, Matsushita, and Sho Suboi that Cassidy is focused on, because he needs to get into the lead of this race and go out and win it. And he's not far off doing it, but is he going to run out of laps before, or is he going to run out of tyres before it gets too late to make that move work? He's still very much making it work. Meanwhile, these two, if they've settled down a little bit, but I think coming up on the back of the pair of them is this year's real sensation. It's Sasahara.
The surprise rookie.
The surprise rookie who's coming up on the back of them, and he sort of came out of nowhere, and he's about to come out of nowhere on the back of Hirakawa, and that could liven things up. Back to Cassidy, though. A safety car would utterly ruin his day if it came out at the moment.
Absolutely. I think both Hirakawa and Yamamoto have got a bit of a hurry up. They've just set their respective fastest laps of the race so far, but I think they've got to hurry up because Sasahara has just stormed up behind them. So Cassidy, the gap really now is just over 30 seconds to Sho Suboi. There is an advantage if you do pit late, that you'll have several laps on fresh tyres, but you don't want to put yourself in a position either where you absolutely have to overtake. He needs another 8 seconds or so, Sam. That is pretty much the gap he is looking. He needs another 8 seconds.
Well, I've just done the quick calculations. 8 seconds at his current pace, and Sho Suboi's current pace will take 16 laps. He doesn't have 16 laps to do it. He has 14, and he has to stop on the penultimate lap at the latest. So that isn't going to work unless Sho Suboi suddenly gets a lot of degradation on tyres that are a damn sight newer than those on the Vantolin team Toms Dallara. He's got to do a lot of work from here on in, but if he manages to make this work, and right now he is, will be a sensational drive from the New Zealander, and a good way to sign off his Super Formula career, at least for now, though as he says he hopes to be back.
This is the issue actually for Sho Suboi, Sam. Is the last few laps he's been under pressure from Nobuharu Matsushita, and it's actually that, again, like Yamamoto and Hirakawa, Sho Suboi has had a little bit of a hurry up because the pressure from behind, Sho Suboi potentially also under pressure from lose this win to Matsushita should Cassidy fall into the pack. So there is more than just second place up for grabs in this race. This is potentially for the win as well. But I think at this point the times are beginning to level out somewhat as I say that Cassidy goes faster again, but Yamamoto himself has also just dropped into the 22s as the tyres have begun to plateau. They really have had a bit of a hurry up since Sasahara rolled up behind them, but now there's not really enough of a gap yet for Cassidy to clear these guys. It's stabilised somewhat, Sam, and I just wonder if Cassidy may be beginning to get to that point where everything is beginning to plateau. Team Toms are really going to be thinking hard about when to drop Cassidy into the pits at this stage. It's going to be very, very tight.
Well, you can see it on your screens there. If things worked out and he came into the pits right now, Cassidy would probably come back on the track between Naoki, Yamamoto and Hirakawa, which is exactly where he doesn't want to be. I think that's why Yamamoto has lifted his pace quite frankly, because that's exactly where he wants Cassidy to be, behind him. If he comes out in front, he will, of course, manage to make it past Oyu, Nojiri, Matsushita, Sho Suboi, and try and get the race win. 7 seconds on a new set of tyres against guys who've got old tyres on should be possible, but it certainly isn't easy to get done. But he's got a lot of that overtaking boost left as well. let's not forget, Hirakawa and Naoki Yamamoto have been fighting each other and using up each other's boost. And as you can see on your screen, the gap between Cassidy and Yamamoto is now about 38 seconds. How long does a pit stop take? About 38 seconds.
That'll be, as you see, the gap between the leading two, it's eking out, Sam, as opposed to what we saw several laps ago when the gap was kind of growing by approximately half a second or so at a time. It's now eking out. The gap is really coming out to maybe a 1/10 of a second or so at a time now. And it's not just that Cassidy's tyres are old as such at this point. They've been running since the start of the race, but even those like Shosuboi, Najiri, they've been running now on those tyres for approximately 20 laps as well. So all the tyres around are beginning to age. Cassidy has had the advantage, though, of running most of this race in clear air. Even when the other drivers in front of him had not pitted, he actually had a bit of a gap when he was behind Sasahara, etc. He had actually had a bit of a gap ahead of him, so he's been running in relatively clear air for most of this race. He's not had the issues that, say, Hirakawa and Yamamoto have had, where they've been running in dirty air and scrubbing up their tyres. And I think the interesting thing is to keep an eye on, if we can, the battle between Shosuboi and Matsushita. If they continue to fight each other for what is, at this stage, the lead of the race, they may also burn up their Yokohama tyres prematurely. And that's Najiri, that's Najiri!
Yeah, this could be very bad news for Cassidy here, because that's a difficult place to recover a car from. And if that brings out a full course caution, Cassidy is going to have to come to pit road right now. They've got to react to this, because if he misses the pit this time by, safety car comes out. That massive gap that he's just built up, that's going to be eliminated by the safety car. Cassidy is going to have to come to pit road right now. Not sure how Najiri's managed to, well, end up there. It looks like a failure because the car looks intact. Let's see. Comes into the corner. Oh, left front has gone down. It looks like left front is locked, or suspension's failed, or the tyre's gone down. But he's gone skating off the circuit there, and he's not happy. Well, that's his championship hopes over. It looked like the tyre had gone down there, Leigh. Left front tyre.
So that is one of the championship challengers out of the race.
Well, that was one of the championship challengers. There's his, that's the Tom's team. That's Cassidy coming in. So they're reacting to this.
Absolute shame for Tomoki Najiri, who was brilliant several times this year, particularly at Autopolis. He was fantastic in qualifying, didn't quite happen from the race, and had a slow pit stop and a retirement now. His championship challenge is done.
Yeah, this is what we need to watch now. Will this number one, Vantolin Team Toms, Dallara SF19, come to pit road? It looks like he is going to. They're covering off the chance of a safety car, and he's committed to the stop. Now, if the safety car were to come out at this point, it would be very good news for Nick Cassidy. But it looks like the race organisers are keeping the track green. Now, looking at the time gaps as he came into the pits, he was not far enough ahead to get in front of Naoki Yamamoto. We'll see when he comes out of the pits, though. We'll see how this plays out. Got to be a perfect stop here from Toms. Not super quick on the right front, but it's not holding up too much. A little bit of consternation. Let's see what the pit time was. 7.8, lost a couple of tenths a second, but nothing too serious. There's Naoki Yamamoto. Cassidy hasn't done enough.
Yeah, Yamamoto, I think the gap was always going to be a few seconds, although here comes Yamamoto now. The question is, will he get out ahead of Hirakawa? No. Cassidy did do most of the work there, considering the gap he needed, but he's going to be on cold tyres. Will Hirakawa get by? He needs to keep Hirakawa off. As you see Cassidy gesticulating in the cockpit of his car, Cassidy goes wide into the corner, keeps the position ahead of Hirakawa. Now, Yamamoto is going to be on older tyres, Sam. Hirakawa also on slightly old tyres. As soon as Cassidy has his tyres up to temperature, he is going to shoot after Naoki Yamamoto, but it's not going to be enough. He needs to get out front. He needs to win this race. It's not enough to just be ahead of Yamamoto.
Lots of gesticulation in the cockpit of Nick Cassidy's Vantolin Team Toms Dallara. Not quite sure what the gesticulation's all about. I thought at first he was waving Hirakawa through, but he's not.
Very strange, very, very, very strange. I wonder, was he just... I mean, it is a bit of surprise that they didn't actually call a safety car for where the car was positioned, but it seemed to have been cleared very, very quickly by the marshals here.
I think I know what's going on here. Cassidy has realised that it might be too much of an ask for him to get after Naoki Yamamoto, get past Naoki Yamamoto, Oyu, Matsushita and Sho Suboi. Don't forget, Yamamoto is up to, as we see, a big battle there between Sasahara. That was coming for a while. Overtaking boost system deployed. And Hirakawa, well, rather rudely shoves Sasahara off, shoves him off the track. I wonder if Cassidy was aware that his Toyota teammate, Hirakawa, was the next best place to win the championship. And if Hirakawa didn't go past Cassidy and get after the Yamamoto, then Honda would win the championship at Fuji Speedway, and that would be bad.
Indeed.
If you're a Honda driver, it would be good.
The gap between Yamamoto and Cassidy at the moment is 2 seconds. Yamamoto's got relatively clean air to charge after Toshiki Oyu, who's running in 3rd place at the moment. The gap out front is still between Sho Suboi and Matsushita. I have to say, we have been watching the Championship Challenge an awful lot so far in this race. It's actually been quite a tug of war between Sho Suboi and Matsushita up front. Still 9/10 of a second between the pair of them. 8 laps to go in this season, Sam. This championship is going to be decided very, very shortly.
8 laps to go. Cassidy is 8.9 seconds off the race lead. He needs to win this race to win the championship. That looks like quite a tall order, but we have seen wild changes at the front of the battle. As you say, Sho Suboi is just 7/10 of a second ahead of Matsushita. Oyu sitting out on his own, 2.2 seconds off the lead. Naoki Yamamoto is 6.6 off the lead. Then there's Nick Cassidy, and then behind him is that number 20, Hirakawa. Right now, things are looking good for Naoki Yamamoto to clinch this championship. So let's hope it's rather less dramatic than the Super GT finale, where things changed on the very final corner of this very racetrack.
I don't think it was that dramatic. I think it would actually be quite nice. Cassidy 1.4 seconds behind Yamamoto. He was 1 second faster than the race leader Sho Suboi last time around, so he's pulling the gap into the race leaders. It's going to be critical to get ahead of Yamamoto. As I say, then he has a bit of clean air to Shiki Oyu.
Leigh.
And Oyu is running quick times at the moment, so...
Leigh, if you look at Nick Cassidy, he's right on the back of Naoki Yamamoto. A little bit of overtaking boost coming down the start-finish straight. I think if he gets a good exit from this final corner, gets on that button, I think you'll see those that roll hoop light flashing it just about now. He'll get into the toe, and we're going to see a battle down into turn 1 between these two drivers as Cassidy tries to push that Honda-powered car backwards into the Toyota car. Now you can see that roll hoop light flashing. They go defensive, and yes, I can see that battle at the front, but let's stick with this one because Cassidy's going to go around the outside into the first corner. Doesn't quite make it stick. Will he get the cut back into the next set of corners? Little twitch from the rear of Yamamoto. Cassidy and Yamamoto, they bang wheels going down the straight. Cassidy's got nothing to lose and gets the position. Now he's got to get off up the road. He's in 4th position. Oyu, Matsushita and Suboi now. They're having a great battle up front. Are they going to slow each other down? Can Cassidy get this done?
Absolutely fantastic battle there between Naoki Yamamoto and Nick Cassidy. Nick Cassidy taking 4th place out of the guy who really has been his rival for most of the last 4 years. They've taken the last 3 Super Formula Championships between them, and they've also been championship rivals in Super GT, Sam, as well. But Cassidy already running. He's setting some red sectors, Sam. I think we're going to see possibly the fastest lap of the race coming from Cassidy fairly shortly, such as the pace he's running at the moment.
5 seconds off the race leader now. That sort of pace increase over the race leader, that's pretty massive. He could do this, you know. He's still got to get past Toshiki Oyu, Nobuharu Matsushita and Sho Suboi. That's a bit of an ask, but what engine's in the back of Suboi's car? Sho Suboi's car? That's a Toyota. There is your real-time championship permutations. There's a brilliant battle for the lead. I know we're not talking about it right now because there is this fantastic battle for the lead. You just saw it on your camera. If Cassidy can get on the back of those front 3 cars, this is all to play for right now.
Cassidy is over 1 second a lap faster than the top 3 at the moment. He is absolutely reeling them in. They're faster, of course, at the moment, mostly because...
And that is what we've got to look at. Cassidy, more red sectors coming up on our timing screens. He is lighting up the timing screen, 4.3 at the last stripe. And, well, there you can see Cassidy. There you can see the battle for the lead, which we're obviously not watching because of this championship scenario. But there's also a brilliant motor race going on at the front of this pack. Who's going to win this race? Haven't got a clue. Who's going to win this championship? Haven't got a clue. Stay with us. 5 laps to go. Don't forget, hit like and subscribe. You're watching the 2020 Super Formula Finale on the-race.com, live from Fuji Speedway. And what a lot of fun it is too.
With a charge, Cassidy will almost see the front 3 ahead of him. It'll be interesting to see how much of a fight Matsushita and Oyu will put up. If Matsushita's pace is beginning to tail off slightly, he's in the 1:23s. But Oyu sees his second race win in a row as he goes for the lead against Sho Suboi. Goes around the outside. It's not going to make it there. Sho Suboi shoves Oyu a little bit wide. Oyu really is seeing the opportunity for a second race weekend. He was brilliant last time out in Suzuka, and he's actually been done quite a fantastic job this time out as well. He started 7th, and through a mixture of very good pace, very strong pace and strategy, he's made his way up to 2nd place, Sam, and is currently challenging for the lead. And ahead of Sho Suboi, you actually have the back of the field. I think that might be Kunimoto, who's close to being lapped in this race. It's all happening here. Only 4 laps left.
If I was in the TRD technical truck in the paddock, I would be on the radio right now to Sho Suboi saying, listen, lad, we'll let you have a go in the new LMDH or the hypercar or whatever you want. You know, we'll let you have a go in the new Toyota fast Le Mans car, because if you hold off these 2 Honda runners and just back them into Cass, because we can take the championship here. Look, he's moved up 16 positions from starting dead last. He's now driving towards race win and championship contention. Naoki Yamamoto, he's down in 5th. So if Cassidy can get past these guys, he wins the championship. If Hirakawa gets past Yamamoto, he wins this championship. If Yamamoto holds on and Cassidy doesn't get past him, he wins this championship. It's all wide open. We're at lap 37 of 40 at Fuji Speedway, and this really could go any way. And also, who's going to win this race?
And meanwhile, Sam, the other thing to keep an eye on as well is Hirakawa is still chasing Naoki Yamamoto over 5th and 6th place, because Hirakawa is still in a shout with his championship. If the positions stay as they are and Cassidy doesn't progress and Hirakawa overtakes Yamamoto, there is the opportunity there to actually overturn the championship challenge in Hirakawa's favour. All of this can still change for any 3 of those drivers in these last few laps. We're on the 4th last lap. There's really not much to go. The gap is getting smaller and smaller, and here is Yamamoto and Hirakawa in 5th and 6th place, and you still have Sasahara there in 7th place, keeping a watchful eye on what's happening just ahead. Sasahara, meanwhile, has just set his fastest lap of the race.
That's no watchful eye there, Leigh. What engine's in the back of Sasahara's Red Bull Mugen Honda? That is a Honda. That's a Honda car through and through. Sasahara's going to have the orders straight away. Get in front of Hirakawa. Don't worry about the rest. Just get in front of Hirakawa, and that'll help Naoki Yamamoto take the championship. There's team orders flying around this pit lane right now, and it is manufacturer team orders, not team by team orders. Look at this, the TCS Nakajima car in 2nd position. He has no overtaking boost system left. The Matsushita in 3rd, he is running out of it. Sho Suboi's got almost a fully loaded cassette of it, and Nick Cassidy, 3.1 seconds off the lead now, has almost his full allocation. These 2, though, well, look at this. Naoki Yamamoto has nearly his full allocation. Looks like Hirakawa has run out. It looks like Hirakawa's championship hopes are going out of the window with Naoki Yamamoto's fully loaded overtaking boost system. Lap 38 of 40 now. This is getting towards the crunchy end of the championship and the crunchy end of the race. But as we've seen already on this channel this season, things can change at Fuji Speedway in a real hurry. And look at the way Nick Cassidy is now getting up to the back of the top 3. He's right on their tail, but also right on the tail is Hirakawa on Naoki Yamamoto. Will he be able to make a wild lunge towards the end of this race as we take a nice look at the mountains over Gotemba?
Here, Cassidy can't hang on. He can't wait for the right moment to make a move. If any opportunity comes up, he needs to go for it there and then. There's absolutely no point whatsoever hanging on for the best and just hoping that it comes his way. It's only 2 laps left, Sam. It needs to be done as soon as he possibly can. And it's not just a case of running out of laps. He's running out of straights as well.
Well, that's it. He's going to have to make wild lunges, but I would wager Sho Suboi won't make his life too difficult if he gets onto the tail of Suboi. And he's right now on the tail of Matsushita. He's got just these next 2 laps to get this done. This is a big ask for the New Zealander. If he gets this done, this is a drive that will go down in the history books as one of the finest ever seen in Japanese motor racing.
And there's a thought as well for Sho Suboi out front, who won his first Super Formula race earlier on this year, Sam. He's only in his 2nd season in the category. This is a guy who absolutely dominated Japanese Formula 3 back in 2018. As Toshiki Oyu's looking for an opportunity to take the lead, doesn't quite happen for him. Sho Suboi, he's improved an awful lot this year. I think the speed is there, if sometimes the luck hasn't been. And I think we may see him make a real charge for the Super Formula category in 2021. I think he's definitely a driver for the future.
Cassidy has got very little very small amount of distance left to get this done, and it is an enormous task ahead of him. It's not an impossible task, but it is a huge ask right now. Look at those flashing lights on the roll hoop. They all see the danger coming. The final lap of the 2020 Super Formula season gets underway. Cassidy's got to pass in 4th position those 3 cars in front to take the race win and the championship. This man, Naoki Yamamoto, just has to hold off the car behind him to take the championship, and if Cassidy doesn't manage to do it. His boss, Koyushi Muraka, is really pumping his fist at the Docomo Team Dandelion. Can Honda take the honours at Toyota's home circuit? There's just a few thousand metres left to decide the 2020 season. This is what it's come down to. Cassidy, I don't think is going to get this done. It's too much to ask.
I think it's too late, Sam. I think it is just too late. And I think Sho Suboi is definitely going to hold on for this race win, but he's right there, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and now here you have 5, 6, and 7 in this race, so close together. All the strategies, how different they are, have diverged, and they've come together in these final laps. And we're about to see a very, very, very close finish. But I think this championship may now be consigned into the hands of Naoki Yamamoto on screen now. But what a fantastic job by all.
Yeah, Cassidy didn't get it done into the final corner, and now it's too late. Unless the cars in front have run out of fuel, the race will be run by Sho Suboi for Team Inging. 2nd position, the TCS Nakajima car of Toshiki Oyu, then Matsushita, then Cassidy, and the 2020 Super Formula champion, Naoki Yamamoto, for Docomo Team at Dandelion Honda. Well, Toyota win the race, but this man and his team won the championship. Docomo Team Dandelion driver Naoki Yamamoto.
3-time champion, Sam. 3-time Super Formula champion. Fantastic job by Naoki Yamamoto. As we said at the start of the program, had a very, very slow start to the season, but this second half of the year, 3rd in Sugo, 2nd at Autopolis. He won the first race at Suzuka, and his 5th place finish here has garnered him the championship, the Super Formula Championship for the 3rd time. Commiserations to Nick Cassidy, a valiant effort. Commiserations to Ryo Hirakawa, another valiant effort. Commiserations to Tomoki Nojiri, who retired earlier on. All brilliant jobs, fantastic efforts, but this time out, again, for Docomo Team Dandelion, it is Naoki Yamamoto who has come out on top. 3 times a Super Formula champion.
Well, he's also done the double, Leo Gorman. He has won both Super GT and Super Formula in the same season. It's a feat that is relatively rare, but this is not the first time this man has done it. However, he has also once again crossed the line at Fuji Speedway just ahead of Ryo Hirakawa. The last time we saw Ryo Hirakawa running out of fuel and punching the barrier at the final corner. This time, well, Naoki Yamamoto raced all the way, and Hirakawa managed to have enough petrol in the car to finish the race, but the result was the same either way. Hirakawa finishes 2nd. Naoki Yamamoto is the champion of the 2020 Super Formula season. There is the man who was 2nd, Ryo Hirakawa, and he will be disappointed with that result. It's a season of nearly making it to the title, but not quite. Stay tuned, we'll be hearing from all of the championship winners, and we're seeing the never-ending podium ceremony imminently as the drivers get out of the car and point one finger in the air and have their photos taken for a rather long amount of time. And we talk about this season so far. For those who've been watching us all season, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you for tuning in for a race season that has been incredibly difficult for many people around the world. We didn't even think we were going to get a racing championship this year, and we would have had we did get a great championship, both here on the-race.com. Still time to hit like and subscribe, of course. We managed to bring you the Super GT Championship live and exclusive all year long. And, of course, the Super Formula Championship as well. And thanks for joining us on this channel. We hope to bring you lots more great racing action next year. But the action here is not over. As I say, we've got the great podium ceremony. But, Leigh, looking back over the 2020 Super Formula season, what have been your highlights?
Well, actually, just getting going again in Motegi in August was an absolute thrill. And, it's been a very fast and furious last 6 weeks. Sam have pretty much gotten 4 of the 7 rounds done in the last 4 weeks, for the last 6 weeks. So it's been an incredibly busy season. Hard to really put a kind of a single moment. I think Sho Suboi winning in Okayama was with Inging, getting a 1-2 there. That was a brilliant job, and great to see him. Also great to see Toshiki Oyu getting his first win last time out in Suzuka and coming up second here. We're really seeing, we can celebrate these drivers here. Naoki Yamamoto with his 3rd championship, and Nick Cassidy, who's the reigning champion and moving, we think, to championships abroad. Well, we know he's moving to championships abroad, but we're also content in the sense we have an incredibly vibrant young set of drivers coming through. Sho Suboi is going to be a driver for the future. Toshiki Oyu is going to be a driver for the future. And I think you can't complain. Absolutely no one can complain. Ukyo Sasahara is going to be another driver for the future. From Nirei Fukuzumi there as well. Hirakawa, he's only 26, Sam. He's a guy who feels like he's achieved a lot more. He's still a young guy, as we see the celebrations going on with Yamamoto. So I can't help but think that, this championship's in a really good place now. As we see Hirakawa shaking hands at Yamamoto. The despair, really, for Ryo Hirakawa. You can't help but really feel for Ryo Hirakawa. Lost 2 championships to this man this season. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he has lost those titles, but Naoki Yamamoto is rightly very, very happy with the way things have transpired. And it will be really good to see him up on the podium. Good congratulations there coming from Nick Cassidy and also from Ryo Hirakawa as well. Cassidy also making a point to congratulate Sho Suboi on top of that.
And, while we're here, I think, Sam, it is fair to give some thanks as well to yourself as well, being the brilliant lead commentator through what has been an incredibly difficult, trying year for everyone. And thanks also, shout out to the guys in remote producing, Aid and Julian, both have done absolutely incredible through this year. Thanks also to Rab, Louis, Nat at the race, and everyone else at the race for helping us to cover this championship this season. It has been a wonderful effort by all, and they really would not have been without your help. And thanks to everyone too for watching Super Formula this year. Like, subscribe, join and comment, because that is how we will bring content for you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a big thank you as well, in addition to that, to everybody at JRP for making this possible. Japan Race Pro Promotion, organisers of the Super Formula Championship. It was great to finally, when we finally managed to get this series screen. We've wanted to do it for years. I remember sitting in a coffee bar in Shinagawa train station, sort of making the final arrangements for this, and with Rab from Grand Central and all the guys at the-race.com and making it happen. Hopefully we'll be back next year with loads more great racing action. We're already in discussions what to happen. And I can't actually update you further what I'm supposed to tell you because for some reason my computer won't let me see our producer's messages suddenly. So Leigh, you'll have to do all of those important bits.
Thanks to Russell Yost, who's helped us a lot as well on the news and information coming from the trackside in Japan. He's been brilliant effort so far by him, and also a couple of others. Nicholas Dura, need to thank as well for the fantastic job that he's done. Genyu, also, all the information, all the messages, everything that's come from trackside, which has helped us bring you this Super Formula season. Thank you all, because it would not have been able to happen without all of you.
Yeah, now I've got the messaging board back, so I can talk to everybody again. Yes, thank you to everybody that Leigh just mentioned, absolutely. And some questions still coming in on the chat. So before I get to some of those questions, I just want to reiterate our thanks to our production team, our producer, Aid Holbrook. He can be found at Aid Holbrook on various social media, where he does indeed take his clothes off sometimes. And for the facilities, Jules Elkin, who really makes everything work, and also the guys down the line who have some magic yellow cube that I don't understand what it does, but they press buttons and do things, and that in Japan, and it sort of all works, and that's how we end up having this stuff on the screen. So still time for some questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to cover the podium ceremonies in full. We may be getting an interview with Nick Cassidy. We may not. We're definitely going to get an interview in Japanese with this man, Naoki Yamamoto, who's the champion and is about to be interviewed. But while we have quick questions, comment came in from one of our producers. Imagine if Nick Cassidy had started in the back of the grid. This would be a different interview. Thank you very much, says Naoki Yamamoto. You're champion again. That was very impressive. Yeah. He's just talking about working his way through the battle and being number one. And yes, it was a big challenge. She's very impressed by the race and thinks it was quite surprising. Sorry, I wasn't listening to that bit. I was reading something else. Anyway, he's quite happy to have won the championship, quite obviously.
And well deserved again.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he's
and you know, Sam, the incredible thing is, they're already looking to next year as well, because the rookie test for Super Formula takes place still at Fuji Speedway over the 22nd and 23rd. So
yeah, absolutely.
Some of the teams will actually be staying on. They're not going to be going home right after this at all.
Well, if the track's not covered in snow, actually it's not forecast to be. There has been very heavy snow in Japan this week, and well, it didn't fall on Fuji Speedway. We thought it might do. Well, that was quite a long answer, wasn't it?
Actually, I think thanks also has to go to the Super Formula Championship as well, as you mentioned, to JRP, who've made efforts to alter the sporting regulations where it needed to make this championship work. We've had to have shortened races, so no fuel stops, to have fewer people on track. Initially, we had no tire stops at the first round in Motegi, but they altered that, knowing that it didn't result in the fine racing we're normally used to in Super Formula. So it's fantastic that they have been incredibly flexible throughout this to keep bringing the kind of championship we have that we're used to.
Yeah, and that answer you just didn't hear was Naoki Yamamoto just saying thank you to the fans in the grandstand. So pretty much what Leigh was saying, but thank you to you at home for watching as well. And I'm sure Naoki Yamamoto would have said that to you if he'd remember we were all watching from around the world. But winning the championship, yeah, car 5, Naoki Yamamoto, the champion. On that, and he gets a big sort of cardboard cutout of a circle with a picture of his car on and the word champion. I wonder if they had one of those printed out for each, and they must have done actually, for each team and driver line up there. As oh, it's a thumbs up. That's unconventional for Japanese motor racing. It's not the single finger in the air. I'm not sure the photographers will accept that. He tapped it to Lara. No, the photographers are accepting the lack of finger. Maybe they're going to sort of make him do it on the podium then. It'll be a podium finger. And a little bit of a wave to the crowds. As at this point, there's all the photographers, and he goes and gives a fist bump to his team. And this is the usual process after a Japanese motor race where the driver spends a very long time finding his way to the podium.
Probably more so today because it is the championship ending round. I mean,
well, he's not actually on the podium, is he? So I don't know. He's just. I don't think he knows what to do with himself. He'll have to go up to the podium to get the championship pot, I think. Here we get an interview with the race winner, though. We forgot about him. It's Sho Suboi. And she was just saying, well done, Sho Suboi. Thank you, said Sho Suboi. He waved. It was a difficult race, wasn't it? Yeah, I made a good start. And usual answers.
That was absolutely critical to his race. It was slightly sluggish away from the grid by Najiri, but Sho Suboi on the dirty side of the track made it work going into turn 1, while behind him Matsushita was fighting the way through as well. And that was a tense, close battle between Matsushita and Sho Suboi for much of that race. We didn't see an awful lot of it because we were paying so much attention to the actual championship contenders, but they were pretty close all the way through. And right almost to the end, when Oyu finally overtook Matsushita faded a little bit in the last few laps, but they were very, very close. And you know what? Heads up for Matsushita, who's come in to just replace Sergio Seti Kamara at the B-Max by Motor Park Honda team, and he's got a couple of points finishes and a podium out of it. So, you know, fantastic job by him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a fantastic job he's done this year, and they've got, you know, their branded face masks, which is good to see, but they've still got the mask slippage problem that a lot of people struggled with in motorsport all year. They have to keep on pulling it up, which isn't the most hygienic solution, so they have to get that antibacterial cream on their hands after each time they do that.
Yeah, there he goes again.
Well, I wonder, you know, he's just saying thank you to everybody in the usual situation, discussing the race as it was. It was quite a tense race for him. I think he's been a bit of a breakthrough talent for this year, has Sho Suboi. He's been pretty quick. He won the first race we showed this season on the-race.com, and that was the Super Formula Esports race, which we commentated on after some difficulties.
Yeah. Of course, you know, we still have, of course, as announced last week actually, a 7-round championship for the 2021 season. Provisional, everything is provisional, Sam. The way things are in the world at the moment, everything is provisional. But as it stands at the moment, the championship opens at Fuji Speedway on the 4th of September. Then it goes to, we'll go to the race results first. We'll do the calendar in a bit. Sho Suboi winning ahead of Toshiki Oyu, 0.6 of a second, with Nobuharu Matsushita third, his first podium in Super Formula this season at least. Nick Cassidy, 4th place, wasn't quite enough to take the championship. Naoki Yamamoto, 5th place, it was enough to take the championship. Then Ryu Hirakawa comes home 6th. Ukihiko Sasahara, solid job today to come home 7th. Then Sasha Fenestraz gets some points for him. Very quiet race for him, up to 8th place. Kazuki Nakajima came home 9th. Kento Yamashita made it 2 Kondo Racing drivers in the top 10. Very, very, very close battle in the lower end of the field there. As we go to the drivers who finished outside the points, Kamui Kobayashi, very, very disappointing season from Kamui Kobayashi, and I'm sure he'll tell you that himself. Hiroki Yoshida in his final ever Super Formula race comes home 12th. Hiroki Otsu in his first ever Super Formula race comes home 13th. Kazuya Oshima was 14th, then Kunimoto and Fukuzumi, and then etc. right to the end of the field. And we see the final championship standings. Naoki Yamamoto winning by 2 points ahead of Ryo Hirakawa. Sho Suboi took third in the championship with that win, his second of the season. Joint points with Nick Cassidy, but Nick Cassidy only had one win, while Tomoki Nojiri fell to fifth in the end. He retired from today's race. Just to continue what I started a moment ago, Fuji Speedway starts the 2021 season on the 4th of April. Then 3 weeks later, on April 25th, the championship goes to Suzuka. Then the third round at Autopolis on the 16th of May. The fourth round takes place at Sportsland Sugo on the 20th of June. Then you have the delayed Olympics, Japanese Olympics, so there'll be a 2-month gap. Then the fifth round of the championship goes to Twin Ring Motegi on the 29th of August. Then the penultimate round at Okayama on September 26th. And then you have a long gap as well, a second round at Suzuka. That comes on November the 14th. That is the provisional calendar for the 2021 season. As I said a moment ago, everything and anything is up for change, but that is how it stands at the moment. Vantaline Team Toms won the team's championship, with Ying coming second place, joint on points with Team Dandelion, and I believe Ying get it by virtue of 2 wins. Those 2 wins for Sho Suboi, whereas Yamamoto only got 1 win. Team Impul came home 4th in the team standings with 69 points. Their main driver, of course, being Ryo Hirakawa.
So not an entirely disastrous outing for Vantaline Team Toms in the end. Nakajima and Nick Cassidy. Lots of discussion about that driver lineup for 2021. Nakajima obviously part of Toyota's Le Mans campaign, and the WEC will be back and in full force in its next season. Will he be able to do both Super Formula and the WEC? It's not certain yet. Same for Kamui Kobayashi, who was entirely anonymous today. And it does look like those 2 drivers may not be able to do every Super Formula race. Also, Nick Cassidy out of that seat, one of the 2, so that's 2 of the best, definitely one of the best, if not 2 of the best seats in Super Formula available for next season. All sorts of rumours about foreign drivers who may be coming in the direction of this championship. If Roman Grosjean can't find a Indycar seat, could he end up racing in Japan? We know he loves the country. There's various other drivers who could be finding their way across the Pacific. Could we see Alex Albon maybe making an appearance in Super Formula for a little while? Or would that be seen as a step down? Well, there's Sho Suboi on the top step of the podium, Leigh.
In terms of empty seats, we must not forget either is the other seat, Sho Suboi's teammate next year, because Hiroki Yoshida is leaving Super Formula. So that is a potentially prized seat for what are very much a good team up for grabs as well. I think keep an eye on Ying, because that may be a name that we'll see more prominently towards the front of the field in the future.
Well, I'd say keep an eye on the guys on the first and second step of this podium. Sho Suboi and Toshiki Oyu, they are 2 really great new talents in Japanese racing. I think we're about to get the Japanese national anthem, which is why I'm pausing. Yes, we are. Here we go. Very solemn national anthem, very solemn facial eyes expression at least from Sho Suboy. I think he's a real talent for the future, Suboy. Probably won't find his way to Formula One. Toyota not yet fully committed to re-entering Formula One. It does seem to be very much on the radar, even though they deny it. Very much is. Those lovely trophies with that nice etching on for Fuji Speedway. Little map of the track, and then obviously that famous snow-topped peak of the mountain. Shows people trying to get instructions from someone who's slightly too far away by the look of it. And single flag technique. So there will be more trophies on the podium, as Toshiki Uyu has gone very casual. And he's waving his flag sort of half-heartedly. And he gives up on that now. No, he's not quite sure what he has to do. So he's just lingering. Yeah, you think you've got some practice, but he's second now, and well, he's just sort of waiting. And I'm not sure what they're waiting for either, other than oh, right, there's a wave to the fans or to somebody specific. We're waving with two hands and a Honda flag. Toyota will love that on their own circuit. And yeah, well, they're all clearing off the podium. So, okay, no extra trophies. That's surprising. This is actually, this is a bit of a development for Super Formula. Just a simple set of, well, we should get a trophy for the championship. It is at the track. I have seen it in some photographs. But normally you get an extra sort of trophy from the circuit, but obviously not here. But here comes something being laid on the road. Yeah, something being laid on the podium there, and I'm not quite sure what's. Oh, shoe boxes maybe. Not sure what these are. We'll see what these are in a minute as the championship-winning car is pushed into the scrutineering bay and the door is closed for inspection. I doubt they'll find anything wrong with it. And well, I think we might get the top three in the championship now on the podium, and they have some boxes of wonder as the table, which is being girled by the three girls there with their bottles of sake, has been removed. We should see now some more racing drivers. Should be, I believe, the top three in the championship. And it's Yamamoto, Hirakawa, and Tsuboi we should see on the podium. Will we see them? I don't know where they are. I wonder what the sake connection is. On this day, obviously sponsor the podium at Fuji Speedway. Must be a shop that sells sake. Yes. Yeah, sounds very... Yeah. Yeah. So the sake connection just seems to be, yes, we're just waiting for what happens as Leo Gorman seems to have disappeared into Tier 5. He'll be back with us momentarily. Not quite sure what's happened there. And, well, this is a podium ceremony that is rather less engaging, I must admit, than recent podium ceremonies in Japanese racing. I do believe our notes say we should be seeing the top three in the championship receiving their prizes. And
Ghost podium, Sam. Ghost podium.
And Leo Gorman has reappeared, shouting about ghosts or something. Well, there you go. There is the race time. It was 40 laps, covered in 57 minutes and 31 seconds, 0.9. And the cars are on the starting grid with that lovely, as I say, it's almost like the opening sequence of Days of Thunder with that nice sort of light shining across the track. And it's the light, the way the light catches. There'll be some beautiful photographs from this race, I'll tell you that. And they will be featured on various outlets. We'll probably put some on Twitter to say thank you. Another thank you that we must add at this point, not just to everybody at home, but also to everybody at the-race.com, from Darren Cox to Glenn to Ed to Mark and all the others who make that such a brilliant website to look for. If you want to see decent coverage of motorsports in the English language, then that is the place to go. But don't forget, coming up later today, it is the Gran Turismo 2020 World Finals Nations Cup final. And tomorrow, there is more esports in the final round of the R-Factor 2 GT Pro Series. So that is a lot of finals going on tomorrow and today. And stay tuned for those finals. Hit like and subscribe. And that's not the final time I will say that.
Just a note, Sam, actually, before the championship podium does kick off, it's actually the first race we've had so far this season with no safety car.
That's a very good point. And, well, speaking of safety cars, the people who keep the chat safe throughout this season in both Super GT and Super Formula, and also the esports and other events, British GT and a few other things that are covered on this channel. So big thanks to all of the moderators on the YouTube chat, and thank you to the members of the channel as well. It's great to have you have funded our Christmas party, even though our Christmas party got cancelled before we even decided to have one, which we hadn't planned, honestly. We would have been able to go to at least to one of the small sample bottles at Sake Connection from the wonderful donations you've all given us through the year.
And, you know, nice, as we mentioned earlier on, towards the end of the season, we've had fans at the circuit, Sam. I think it started out with 5,000 fans at some of the earlier rounds, but I think that got increased to around 10,000 that were allowed in some of the later rounds.
It's gone much higher. I think it's 15 plus now. It's been really good to see. It's been brilliant to see all the fans in the stadium and in the stadium sections at the various tracks, and to see them really enjoying motor racing. Japan's done a pretty decent job of handling this pandemic. Okay, they're suffering as well as everybody else is around the world, but they're suffering maybe slightly better than some of the other countries, particularly in Europe. Certainly, they don't have discussions of Tier 4 in where they live, but Tokyo is sadly back on a red alert situation. So this virus is still far from beaten, but it's good to see that things are moving in the right direction. But now motorsport has really understood how it can continue to operate in these conditions. I think we will be back with a full and thrilling season of motor racing next season. And there will be great action coming up here on the-race.com all through 2021 with live action. Different series still to be confirmed, but I think there's some really spicy stuff in there, which should be great to watch.
Yeah, it's just getting into the evening, Sam, and of course, the sun coming down a lot earlier because we are in December. It's been a cool end to the season, but the cars, the teams, the drivers, everyone's held up to these lower temperatures very, very well indeed. Not the absolute low temperatures I think we would expect at the likes of Fuji at this time of year, but enough to present a challenge to the drivers at least.
They switched the lights on the podium, so something's going to happen.
Eventually.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're still following the chat. Good to see you all going on there. Great to see the podium starting to get going, but great to have you all on board and keep the chat going. I wonder if we should have a special event at some point in the pre-season period after Christmas, just to get all the chat going, really. Just to have a little, fairly pointless motorsporty chat. That'd be quite nice to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We could do like Super Formula Bingo.
That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it? Number 20, Go Hirakawa. Two Fat Ladies, Team Inging 88.
Yeah, I mean, look, the next season, as we see,
that is
Toshiki Oyu back on.
Is Toshiki Oyu to come to get a box?
I'm guessing, is this for the rookie standings?
I have no idea. I have to tell you, Leigh. We thought this might happen. We don't know why he's there. Oh, he's got a very little glass trophy. Quite a nice one. Quite classy, quite small. Little red bow on it by the look of it. Can't quite see what that is a trophy for. I'm desperately looking to our producer to find out what these trophies are for. He's entering something into our comms system, but it hasn't appeared yet. So I'm just waiting to find out if we get an explanation of these trophies. We did have them for Super GT a few weeks back. We found out what all the different trophies were. Oh, he's got a microphone. Could you do a bit of emceeing, maybe? And our producer sent me a message starting, "Don't say this." It's like red flag. I mean, it's like that button that says "Don't press this."
I think, you know, it's fair play as well to Toshiki Oyu, who's really come out of his shell in the last couple of rounds. He's qualified well for most of the season. He has shown plenty of speed in the qualifying sessions, but he also had plenty of accidents earlier on in the first half of the season, and it was something of a talking point up to and around Autopolis, that, you know, that he was under an awful lot of pressure to actually get a result. Well, he has finally started to get those results. You know, Suzuka 2 weeks ago, he took a win, and he's taken his second place here. So it is coming together, and that's critical. Sometimes you have to wait for those results. You can't rush everything. And I wonder if that was simply a rookie of the year or something like that.
It absolutely was one of our production team. In fact, it's gone all the way up the chain of the production team through Grand Central Entertainment, and Louis Simons. That's Louis, not Louise. That's Louis Simons has informed us that was Rookie of the Year. But here's the big pot. And there can only be one thing for that big pot, and that is for the champion. Whether it's the team's champion or the driver's champion first, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's the team's champion trophy. Now I've said that.
I wonder if it's team's champion. Is this just that? Is that Yamamoto's car coming out of scrutineering, or are they going to line it up?
That's the number 6, actually. I'm not sure, actually.
No, I think that's Yamamoto. I wonder, are they going to line it up so that he's underneath the podium?
That'd be a nice photo, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I just think it's. No, I think they're just. Yeah, I think they're bringing it back to the awning.
I think that might have been his teammate's car anyway. It's Fukuzumi's car. Well, we'll wait for the next bit of the podium. This is good, isn't it? I mean, it's a good time to have everybody have a nice chat in the chats. Tyler Brody says Happy Christmas. And Dogface Morcane says waves. Okay.
And of course, as we see the.
Oh, this is
this is the teams. This is the teams, Tom's.
Teams Championship, yeah. So Nick Cassidy gets on a podium at least. They've got the Toyota Gazoo Racing flags. You won't have to wave those anymore when he goes to Formula E. But the rest, you know, I wonder if these two drivers, what they'll be doing next year. One of them is definitely in WC. One of them is definitely in Formula E. Which will either of them be in Super Formula? Well, they lift the trophy, joint effort. Nice trophy, that. It looks like a bit like the FA Cup, actually.
I think it's fair to say that where Cassidy has excelled a lot in the last couple of seasons, Nakajima has at times been found wanting. He scores points, but it tends to be a lot of the time in the lower points reaches. He's never really been on the level of Cassidy in the last couple of years. And
no, he's not threatened for race wins this year, has he?
He hasn't really threatened for race wins much for the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think it's probably fair to say.
And with so much young Japanese talent coming up, maybe he's feeling a bit under pressure because that WEC drive, whilst he's good for that WEC drive, he may be a little unfair. There's Nobuhide Tachi. He's the T in Tom's. They're based just around the corner from this circuit, so they won't have far to go after this race. I'm sure they'll go and have a few drinks in Gotemba town this evening. And I think I know where they're going to go and have drinks, actually. Very nice place.
I think we will see a somewhat altered championship in terms of drivers next season. There are some, as you mentioned, some key names who are leaving and some who are under pressure, like Nakajima. We're not entirely sure what the status of Kobayashi is coming into next season either. We have a prime seat open at Inging next year, a prime seat open here at Tom's next year. So I think there's going to be a lot of question marks. So we'll see a very different face to Super Formula in 2021.
You certainly will. Question just came in on the chat. Are Super Formula and Super GT run by the same people? No, they're not. Super Formula is run by JRP, Japan Race Promotion, and Super GT is run by GTA, the GT Association. And they're both related quite closely to JAF, Japan Auto Federation. But no, they are two very different and separate organisations that run that series. But many of the same figures and names take part in both, including, of course, Team Tom's, who've just won this team's championship. And Nick Cassidy doing his obligatory podium selfie. That'll almost certainly be on Twitter and Instagram. He's all over the Instagram stories, is Nick, normally. And I think that is the last of his podium appearances. Now there's an Inging car being rolled out of scrutineering as the team's trophy is removed by an official. I wonder if the people going on the podium are told not to take the trophies away. I think if I won a race, which is about as likely as, well, snow in August in England, I would just not listen to them and take the trophy with me. I mean, wasn't that one of the points of discussion between Lewis Hamilton and McLaren before he moved to Mercedes? Yes.
Lewis wanted the trophies from race wins and podiums.
That's correct. That was a big topic. That was a big bone of contention. McLaren drivers typically, I'm not sure if it's still the case in the post-Ron Dennis era, but McLaren drivers typically do not get to keep their trophies after winning a race or on a podium. Those trophies contractually are all the property of the team. In pretty much every other team, the drivers get to keep their trophies even if they've been on display for a while at the team. And Lewis Hamilton wants to keep all of his trophies. Interestingly, I've asked the question of the team, what happens to Lewis Hamilton's trophies? And Lewis didn't know the answer to that question. He had to ask someone from the team when we were stood there, and the answer was, well, yes, we do still have them. They're in storage for you when you want them. So we just keep on stocking them up for you. Tell us what you want to do with them. And he hadn't really got an answer to that. Well, there is our 2020 Super Formula champion waving his helmet in the air. It is Naoki Yamamoto of Docomo Team Dandelion Racing, driving a Honda-powered Dallara SF19. Good win. The second, he's a joint champion with winning the Super GT Championship just a few weeks ago in absolutely spectacular style, ahead of this man who is about to appear from the side of the wall, which should be Ryo Hirakawa. But Ryo seems to have disappeared. Maybe he's busy punching a barrier or something. Yamamoto is sort of waiting for this as well. He's not sure what's going on. Here he is. There you go, taking his time. Probably ran out of fuel on the final corner or something. Ryo Hirakawa for Itochu NX Team Impel. Toyota-powered Dallara SF19, second in the championship.
A difficult day in general for Team Impel, Sam, as well. Remembering, of course, the car with piloted by Yuki Sakaguchi burned to the ground effectively before the start.
Well, they do remember the car, but they've only got its ashes.
But we mentioned before the start of the race is effectively they lost one of the shots in the barrel before the warm-up had even finished.
Choisuboi, JMS, Project Mu, Sarumo, Inging.
I wonder.
Dallara SF19, third in the championship.
He's just run straight onto the podium. I wonder if he's actually just been told, oh, by the way, you've got third in the championship.
I think he knew he was third in the championship. I think he probably didn't realise there was another podium, because he possibly wasn't sure that because Cassidy maybe got 50 points, he hadn't worked out the count back. But those trophies are quite nice. You know, this is a little classy little bit of glass with a bow on it. That's a nice trophy, I think. Modern, but magnifies as well. I mean, look how much it magnifies, you know, how it distorts the Yokohama logo there through. Yeah, let's zoom in on that. Yamamoto, he'll be happy with that. I think he'll have I don't think he's much of a party animal. I think he'll just go and have a gentle drink with the family this evening, maybe the team.
I'm just thinking, Sam, which I know is always dangerous. Yeah. I know Satoru Nakajima won 5 titles back when this was Japanese F3000, Japanese F5000. It's not inconceivable that Yamamoto will be gunning for those kind of records in the next few years. He's still only 33 years old. He's still got a lot of years ahead of him. This is, of course, the conclusion of the 48th season of Japanese top formula.
That's pretty impressive. Questions coming in on the chat. Still a few people still struggling to work out where the Super Formula Championship sits in the overall hierarchy of things in international motorsports. Where do drivers go on to from Super Formula? Well, there's only one series higher, that's Formula 1. But this is, as they call it, Japanese top formula. This is Japan's version of Formula 1. And it's only marginally slower than Formula 1 at the moment. And that's why you see a number of ex-Formula 1 drivers taking part in this championship. People who are trying to compare this series to, say, Formula 3, for example, or even Formula 2 or Indycar. These cars are much, much faster, and it's an unusual championship in that it mixes experienced drivers with young talent. So it's a real proving ground for drivers coming up through the championship. That's why some teams like Red Bull are dropping in drivers like Pierre Gasly. Naoki Yamamoto has come back for winning the championship for the second time. And that is look at the size of that. That's a whopping big trophy. I wonder if he's going to be able to lift it up all on his own. I think he's one to say.
I can clear this up slightly because Kazuyoshi Hoshino is a 6-time Japanese top formula champion.
Third hearing of it. I think we'll possibly hear it one more time. I want to see if Naoki Yamamoto is going to attempt to lift that trophy. 2019, it says 2019 Nick Cassidy on the ribbon. So I wonder if there's every Japanese top formula driver's name on those ribbons. I think it probably is. Go on, now she's telling him to lift it up. Hold it there, though, because it'll fall apart and it's really heavy, she says. Lift with your knees. He didn't. That is a big... It's half his size. He's going to have to book his own seat on the Shinkansen back to Tokyo. That is... he probably goes on the green car as well, so it's more expensive. Actually, look at the size of the base. That's... Whoa! He nearly dropped it. That would have been morally hazardous. That's a huge trophy. He nearly got himself in trouble there, didn't he? Well, at least we know the lid doesn't come off. Where's the other two then? They're not going to turn up for second or third. Hang on there, I'm not sure what's going on here, but Naoki Yamamoto now appears to have finished second in the championship as well as winning it. What? I can't understand what's happening here. He's now got the second place trophy. What's this for? Surely that trophy belongs to somebody else, no? Is he going to be third too? Well, yeah, he is. This is like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I think it's different trophies from different people for winning the championship, I guess. The camera is not zoomed in enough to show us quite what's happening. Well, I think this will be a trophy from maybe the Japan Auto Federation. Another one might be a trophy from Yokohama, perhaps.
I like the idea that Yamamoto is taking the trophies for first, second, and third.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's how, you know, that is something. They've given him a microphone. I don't think that's a trophy as well. I think he's actually expected to say a few words. Usually it'll be thank you to the fans.
So just to note, you know, at 33 years old, you know, Yamamoto has won those 3 titles. So he's not that far away from Kazuyoshi Hoshino, who's won 6 titles at this level. You know, he's still got an awful lot of success ahead of him. For a guy who's driving at the absolute top of his game.
He absolutely is. I mean, this is a man who really could have gone into Formula One had he actually wanted to. There's a bit of a story doing the rounds that he was actually offered in an AlphaTauri drive, and he turned it down. Honda wanted a Japanese driver in Formula One, which they've now got Yuki Tsunoda. And it was Naoki Yamamoto's to have. He impressed when he drove the Toro Rosso at Suzuka in free practice 1 at the Japanese Grand Prix a couple of years back, and but then said he just wanted to spend time with his family and that he felt he was too old to do it. Jenson Button tried to persuade him to go and race, and he just
Deki commenting in the chat there that Neo is first, Key is second, and Yamamoto is third, which I think clears that up quite a bit.
It's RJ O'Connell you need.
I think he's moving house this weekend.
So that'll be quite interesting to see. He is moving house this weekend. That's a very good point. He literally is. Well, Naoki Yamamoto thanking the fans and just talking through how well it's gone. And well, he's got all of those trophies. I want to see him just pick up that massive trophy and walk off with it. And that's what I've been doing. There was, I think it was Nick Tandy, after winning the Le Mans 24 Hours, got back to England, went down the pub and took the trophy with him and just dropped it on the table and had a beer.
As you do. You don't get to do that with the Borg Warner trophy.
Yeah, but I mean, that trophy's too big. I know this is, you know, heresy to say if you're from like Indiana, but I don't really like that trophy, and it's too big and you can't pick it up. What good is a trophy you just have to stand next to? It's the same as the Daytona 500 trophy. It's too big. You just have to stand next to it. You can't pick it up, can you?
Not the most. You know, I really do like the trophies that they do have here for Superform. They look like proper trophies. So.
They are proper trophies. None of these silly plastic things. It's proper trophies. You know, Fuji Speedway, nice etching. As Naoki Yamamoto says, thank you to everybody for watching. And as our producer just said to me, just rubbing salt in the wound, you can't go down to the pub at the moment where you live, so there's no point in having a trophy.
But I want
Yeah, I think we should have a trophy for fine podium commentary, because we know exactly what's going on right now, just like Naoki Yamamoto does. I wonder if he's going to get called back to the podium a final time, or we'll actually get the highlights reel as our running order tells us that we should be having like 20 minutes ago. There's Naoki Yamamoto's helmet, and he's saying thank you to Yokohama. And I'm saying thank you to all for watching. And, decent comment, little bit close to the bone. Yan Titahara. Oh, highlights. No, let's talk about those. Leigh, off you go.
And yeah, very good race at the front. It was Sho Suboi took the lead from Tomoki Nojiri at the start. Then in the second level there, you got Matsushita going wheel to wheel with Yamamoto. And eventually Matsushita finding a way past into second place. Sasahara fought hard early on with Oshima, while in the Dandelion team Tom's pits, they were praying. Tomoki Nojiri then had a slow pit stop as a wheel nut went missing. There was no penalty for that in the end, but that cost Nojiri several seconds. Then Hirakawa came into the pits as he aimed to jump Naoki Yamamoto in for position, and he did, but only for a short time. Yamamoto came into the pits. They two were almost level, with Hirakawa initially getting ahead going through turns 1 and 2. As we see, that was Oyu going through there, and we had a fantastic battle wheel to wheel between Hirakawa and Yamamoto. Hirakawa winning out here, but of course Yamamoto would win out again, getting a draft on the start-finish straight with the overtaking boost system. Hirakawa tried to fight it off, but to absolutely no avail. Yamamoto came through to take the position, and it was enough. It was critical for him to win the championship. One contender who was in with a shout, but then wasn't, was Tomoki Nojiri. A failure on his car saw him out of the race. Meanwhile, Nick Cassidy went long into the race before stopping on lap 30. Initially, we think, on the belief that there may have been a safety car. Cassidy fought hard with Yamamoto later on, having already passed Hirakawa. He then got past, this was Sho Suboi fighting off Toshiki Oyu for the win. It was enough to solidify that position after Oyu got past Matsushita. Cassidy caught up with the leading three, but couldn't do enough to take those positions and give him a positive drive in the championship. Meanwhile, Yamamoto held 5th, keeping Hirakawa and Sasahara behind. It was enough to give him the championship by 2 points. 5th place, but all important championship points for Yamamoto. His 3rd Super Formula title. Absolutely fantastic job for the 32-year-old Japanese driver.
Oh, look, it's getting dark in Japan and it's getting light in Hertfordshire, which I think brings us towards the end of our coverage of the 2020 Super Formula Championship here on the-race.com. The photographers are still waiting, and there could still be more podium ceremonies, so we'll stick with it. But I will say to everybody, thank you so much for joining us on what has been an absolutely wonderful half year of motor racing action from Japan and around the world here on the-race.com. It's been a strange year, and it's been in many ways a very sad and tragic year, but it has been brilliant action on track all the way through, and it's been challenging and difficult in other ways too for everybody. So hopefully you're all at home and being safe and sensible with all of the restrictions. But I think it's been wonderful to have you all on board, and with Christmas coming and Santa no longer shielding, it'll be, I'd like to think that everybody at home can have a wonderful Christmas or winter holiday, whichever way you like to look at it, wherever you are in the world. It's been wonderful. It's been a real privilege to be able to talk about this great form of motor racing to all of you, even though some of the podiums go on forever, like this one apparently, which is about to restart or something. But it's been a real privilege to be able to talk about this to all of you. There's Tatiana Calderon. Oh well, let's fade up the microphone, so she'll probably be speaking in English.
皆さん、いつも応援ありがとうございます。またこのコロナ禍の中、オーガナイザーである JRP 様の、ご尽力により全線、無事に開催し、またレースを戦えたことに感謝いたします。今年はですね、ドラゴンコルセとしては、スリーボンドさんとタッグを組んでですね、スーパーフォーミュラの舞台に戻ってきました。今年はですね、女性ドライバーであるこの隣にいますタチアナ・カルデロン選手を起用しまして、今シーズン戦いましたけれども、ちょっと前線参戦というふうにはいかなかったんですけれども、またもしチャンスがあれば、また来シーズンもね、一緒に共に戦っていきたいなと思いますので、その時はまたぜひ応援よろしくお願いします。
Thank you, he says. We are going to hear from Tatiana Calderon, are we? Oh, okay. Well, that was wonderfully surreal, wasn't it? Okay, well, that was Tatiana Calderon. Well, that's all I've got to say about that. Well, there you go. That's what she looked like.
Will she be back next year, Sam, do you think?
I do hope so, because I don't think she really got a chance to show what she could do. I think I know what's happening here, and I think we're not going to need to cover this, because this is every single team just presenting its drivers at the end of the race, and I don't think we need to see that. So I'm going to carry on talking about what I was going to talk about, and that was just saying thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to all our production team. We've said that already. They have done a brilliant job, especially if you follow @Aid Holbrook on Instagram. He really appreciates it. I would also like to say thank you to Leo Gorman for basically being my verbal punching bag, well, for many years, but also this year. And also to Ben Constanduras for filling in for me when MotoGP mucked up a schedule with Formula 1 and I had to be in 2 places at once. So thanks to Ben for that as well. To our technical director, Jules Elkin, who I think has just promoted himself. At least he knows that all the knobs and switches and buttons work, because I haven't got a clue. I literally have some technical stuff here which I've never pressed. He's trying to promote himself again, but I'm not going to give him that promotion. He's probably going to fade me out really quietly now. But yes, it was fantastic to have you all on board, and I think that really leaves us with little more to say, Leigh, than just sort of to wrap this endless podium ceremony up.
Yeah, it has been, I know we keep saying it, but it has been a very, very tough season, Sam. But you know, we've seen a wonderful efforts from all in motorsport to pull not just this championship, but various championships together. I have to say again, a fantastic job by the Super Formula organisers and the promoters to really do things on the fly to make sure championships did happen. It's a huge amount of effort behind the scenes. You know, and we had a lot of chopping and changing between drivers throughout this year, as you know, this from July, August onwards, many drivers in this championship were doubling up in duty, so you know, not everyone could race every weekend. So it's been a brilliant effort by all just to make it happen, and it has happened, and we've actually had a fantastic championship, you know, as a result. That is testament to the skill and the passion for everyone involved.
Well, as our producer has suggested that, well, we have these ongoing interviews. We did see Sugio Matsuda there as team principal, KCMG. And, a suggestion came in of restaurant reviews of the Gotemba area. There's an excellent Italian restaurant. There's a wonderful view of the mountain near one of the 2 Tom's facilities. Used to be used for storing a classic Ferrari collection, but I think they just keep the old Tom's cars in there now. There is a very nice sushi sort of place. I don't think I could find it again, but it's near a big crossroads. Louis Simons, one of our production team, managed to find it once when I found it a really strange abandoned hotel where I was supposed to be staying, and then later managed to flood the bathroom, but I didn't tell anybody that bit. And then took the last can of beer out of the beer machine, and then it never worked again for the whole race weekend. So I was the only person who had beer, and there was only 1 can. So that was nice. There's a very good noodle stop at Gotemba Station. So if you're waiting for the romance car back to Shinjuku, you can actually just stop into the noodle bar for half an hour, get a quick bowl of noodles, a little bit of ramen before you hop on the romance car. Asagiri number 6, I believe. It may have been renamed to Mount Fuji this year. I think they've changed. The Odakyu Railway Company's changed some of its naming conventions on the train. Also, there is a steam locomotive next to Gotemba Station, which you can have a little bit of a crawl around of and take photos of, as I have done many, many times. You can probably find them on Instagram if I work out how that actually works, which I don't know how to do that. And our producer didn't really think I would do restaurant recommendations for the Gotemba area, but I can.
I can't really add to that. Let's see the BMAX guys come off the podium.
Okay, and I think, and that restaurant review section gave us a perfect excuse to basically just wind up and just say our final thank yous to everybody for watching the 2020 Super Formula season here on the-race.com. And also, and it's a thank you to everybody as well in the production team, not just for Super Formula, but also for Super GT, for British GT, all of the esports action, some of which more of coming up today. It's thanks to everybody, for Rob Bath for joining in as well in Super GT, to Ben Constantinuris, and just to everybody who's been involved, particularly to Darren Cox for making it all possible. And hit like, hit subscribe, and join us next year for a lot more action here on the-race.com. I've been Sam Collins, and that's been Leo Gorman. Thank you all very much, and have a good Christmas and Happy New Year.
Welcome to the race.
And the lights are out. Great start then.
The Moto2 champion steps into the team that's dominating the championship.
I'm Scott Mitchell from the race. We're here at Barcelona.
Sebastian Vettel is fighting for his career.
There has to be a title assault, and anything less will be a failure.
Oh, and a spin.
We lost the GoPro.